Chapter 975. Deng Xiaozheng followed behind with mixed feelings. At that moment he really thought that Bundsong would die. In the end nothing happened. He was stunned. This was not the Jiang Yage he knew. Bundsong was still feeling smug. Director Deng, you see it's not that hard to invite her, right? Jiang Yage is quite approachable and easy to talk to. Deng Xiaozheng really did not want to bother with this guy. He just laughed and said, yes, yes. Seeing that big beard Deng was ignoring him, Bundsong's mouth twitched. He had no interest in talking to him. He turned his head again to look at Qin Guang and Jiang Yage who were walking down the stairs side by side. He thought to himself, what a joke, what's there to look at, big beard geezer? Didn't I invite you guys for a meal because of Jiang Yage? After waiting for so many years I finally have the chance to get close to her. It's not a waste of my infatuation with you guys when my family was still poor. It's a pity that only one came. But forget it, it's better than nothing. Bundsong looked at Jiang Yage and Qin Guang being overly intimate and gritted his teeth. Jiang Yage, why are you pretending to be a pure and innocent girl? Aren't you still 2 legs of meat after I peel off your skin? He thought of the time before his family made a fortune. When he was still an ordinary junior high school student he was obsessed with collecting CDs and posters from his left and right hands. He even bought DVDs for the movies that the two of them acted in. He spent a lot of money on them. Later on he finally became rich but he never had the chance to get close to them. After all, everyone's social circles were different. Luckily he could catch celebrities in Baishui County and the surrounding cities from time to time. But it was never enough. But in the past 6 months, Jin Shuiwei and Qin Guang had a scandal. It was like a wake-up call to him. I treat you guys like goddesses in my heart, but you actually let someone else take advantage of you without saying a word? In any case there was still one left. However, when it was revealed that Jiang Yage was going to shoot a movie with Qin Guang, and there were going to be kissing scenes and intimate scenes with Qin Guang, he almost went crazy. Although he had personally touched many big and small artists in the entertainment industry, in his heart the former idol of his youth, who was almost the same age as him, should be holy and pure. He had suspected that it might be the hype of the movie and that it was not real. His patience had reached its peak this afternoon. When he saw Jiang Yage emphasize this matter at the media conference, he was completely in despair. Sure enough, all the crows in the world were black. The so-called pure and innocent celebrities were just a facade that was packaged externally, and their left and right hands were no exception. Since she had begun to accept a larger scale, it meant that she might be switching to the sexy route. Then when Bao Ensong saw on the news that the production team was coming to Baishui County, he was overjoyed and tried his best to arrange a dinner party that night. It was precisely because it was a last-minute idea that Big Beard Deng was caught unprepared. He only received the dinner party notice when he arrived at the hotel. Now the young master of Tongyuan real estate was thinking, aren't you going to switch? Then you definitely don't mind this kind of thing, right? It's just that you are a little more expensive and valuable. It doesn't matter, I don't lack money. I don't mind using force and I'm not afraid of your revenge. In Baishui County no one can do anything to me. As they got closer to the banquet hall, Bao Ensong saw Zhao Yueling from afar, who was smiling and chatting with someone. He licked his lips. Although Jin Shuiwei was not around, there was still Zhao Yueling, which was not bad. Bao Ensong thought that no one knew what was going on in his mind. He even started to imagine the panicked expression on Jiang Yage's face when he barged into her room. Let's make a bet. Do you believe me? Qin Guang gently broke free from Jiang Yage's arms and said softly, what are we betting on? I bet that I will still have to fight tonight. If you want to make a big deal out of it, you are actually looking for trouble. Jiang Yage did not believe it. Really? I'll bet on another thing. The table is just in front. Do you see that pile of fat people? When we get there, the fat guy sitting in the middle will stand up and thank us for coming to Baishui County to film a movie and help them promote the county. Jiang Yage still did not believe it. She felt that Qin Guang's words were too unbelievable. After the fat guy speaks, the middle-aged man in the brown suit on the other side will stand up and say that we are late, so we have to drink 3 glasses of wine as punishment. Dream on. Who do you think I am? A drinking girl. After all, I'm still a big shot. Qin Guang grinned slightly. Just watch. I'm not afraid that you will feel sad. In these people's hearts, you are no different from a drinking girl. I don't believe it. You were so well protected in the past. You are simply otherworldly. Qin Guang laughed. The two of them chatted and walked closer. Sure enough, the fat guy in the middle stood up happily. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the two of you. On behalf of the people of the county, I welcome the two of you to Baishui County. Thank you for coming. You are filming a movie in Baishui County, and you can bring the style of our county to the people of the whole country. It is really a blessing for the people of Baishui County. This fat guy was obviously a local government official, and his position was not low. But for some reason when he introduced himself he even forgot to say his name. He also did not clearly state his position. It was probably controlled by some mysterious power called, "Do not vilify officials above the bureau level." As he spoke he stretched out his hand to Jiang Yage as if he wanted to shake her hand. Qin Guang took a step forward and snatched the other party's hand. Then he turned back and blinked at Jiang Yage. How was it? Did I say it correctly? Jiang Yage, who was preoccupied, forced a smile at the official. Then she turned her head and looked at the middle-aged man in the brown suit that Qin Guang had mentioned earlier. This person had indeed stood up with a glass of wine in his hand. He laughed. Welcome to the two of you. I am Tong Yuan Real Estate's Bo Fa Kai 1, Bo Kai 1, and Gongshi Fa Kai 1. Just now my son Tong and Song came to invite the two of you. Thank you for your hard work. But in our Baishui County there are rules here. But these rules are applicable everywhere. If you are late for the banquet, you will have to drink 3 glasses of wine as a penalty. The two of you are guests from afar, so it is not appropriate to punish the two of you. But the rules cannot be broken. How about this? I will also represent the Baishui County business community to toast the two of you 3 glasses. This is not considered a penalty, right? I will drink first as a sign of respect. After Bo Fa Kai 1 finished speaking, he did not wait for Qin Guang and Jiang Yage to reply. He raised his head and drank 3 glasses in a row. When he was done, he flipped the lid of the glass in front of the two of them, indicating that it was empty. He raised his hand and said, "Please." Jiang Yage was stunned. She felt that Qin Guang was a god. He had guessed everything correctly? Was this guy a prophet? Qin Guang raised his eyebrows at her, feeling indescribably pleased. This little trick was nothing at all. He had just used his world-class acting skills and mental strength to the extreme. The moment he saw this group of people he had already figured out most of their thoughts. Those who came did not come with good intentions and those with good intentions did not come. This group of people, including the fat official, were all brought here by Bao and Song as a cover. This bastard had really put in a lot of effort for Jiang Yage. As the two of them exchanged glances, the waiter in the banquet hall had already sensibly brought a tray over. On the tray were 3 white jade porcelain cups that were filled to the brim. Drinking 3 glasses of wine as a penalty was easy to say, but 3 glasses of wine would cost 2 taels and 4 taels. Regardless of how high Jiang Yage's alcohol tolerance was, even an ordinary man would have to think twice before drinking 2 glasses of wine on an empty stomach. Seeing that the two of them did not move, Bo Fa Kai 1 waved his hand again and said heavily, "Please. You should at least give me this bit of face, right?" Bao and Song, who had been standing behind the two of them, also came forward and said darkly, "You are already late. My father has already toasted 3 glasses of wine. Are you not going to drink this bit of wine? Are you looking down on our Baishui County's wine?" Seeing that the situation was not looking good, Big Beard came forward to smooth things over. Jiang Yage is indeed not feeling well today, so she can't drink. Furthermore, she doesn't drink to begin with. Otherwise, as the director, I would drink on their behalf. As Big Beard spoke, he reached out for the glasses on the tray. However, there was a loud slap as Bao and Song slapped the back of Big Beard's hand. "Director Deng, open your eyes wide and take a look. Or do you think we are all blind and stupid? Isn't Jiang Yage in good spirits? Or is she not feeling well? From the start she has been acting all high and mighty. Now that my father is the host and the elder, he has already drunk 3 glasses of wine. There is no reason for you to drink on his behalf. Get out of my way." Bao and Song had already turned hostile in public. The faces of Rin Chong, Zhao Yueling, Zhou Yangxi and the rest at the table changed. They all turned to look at the fat official in the middle, hoping that he would quickly step forward to smooth things over. Unexpectedly, the fat official's expression did not change. Instead, he put on a fake smile and said, "The people of Baishui County are simple and honest, and they are very particular about the rules. Everyone, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. All right, let's not talk too much. Let's drink a few glasses and sit down to have a good talk." Those who come from afar are our guests, and of course we are also our friends. The location where you chose the location for the movie is coincidentally the location where Tongyuan Real Estate is planning to develop a villa project. There are many things that require the cooperation of Tongyuan's boss, Bao. We have to give him face. That's right. Boss Bao hasn't had such a good drink with others in many years. We can't wait to be envious. Which celebrity can't drink? Miss Jiang, don't hold back. Everyone is watching. Let's drink. That's not giving him face. Why? Is it because Boss Bao doesn't have enough face? Then let's add me, who happens to be the director of the tourism bureau. That should be enough, right? Another fat middle-aged man stood up abruptly and downed 3 glasses in a row. Jiang Yage saw everything from beginning to end, but she did not say a word. Of course, it was not that she did not know how to drink at all. In the past, when she sang with her friends in Yanjing, she would occasionally drink red wine, but that was only to moisten the throat and lungs. As a professional singer, the voice was half of one's life. Cigarettes and alcohol were taboo, especially this kind of spicy high-alcohol liquor. It was almost impossible for her to appear in such social occasions in her life. She had never seen such a scene, and she had never been forced to drink. Looking at the officials of Baishui County or the so-called business celebrities, all of them were smiling, but in the eyes of Jiang Yage, they were simply ferocious beasts that wanted to eat people. Don't you know that singers can't drink liquor? And this is such a big 3 glasses. I'm still a girl. What the hell is in your head? She was so angry that her body started to tremble. At this moment, Qin Guang patted her shoulder. How is it? Did I say it wrong? It's not that easy to be a good person, right? Jiang Yage's heart immediately calmed down. Oh, right, the director of the Guangdong General Administration was right beside her. What am I afraid of? What am I angry about? If Baishui County was really that rotten, then I might as well turn it upside down. Jiang Yage nodded. I can't be a good person. If you can't be, then don't. Qin Guang shrugged nonchalantly. The others saw the two chatting as if no one else was around, and they did not know what they were up to. The Bao father and son felt even more disregarded, and they were furious. Only Big Beard Deng knew that Qin Guang was going to turn the table. No matter how afraid he was, he still had to cause trouble. These people from Baishui County were really out of their league. Chapter 976. On the other side, Qin Guang had already picked up a wine glass from the waiter's tray, but he didn't drink it. Instead, he looked around before his gaze landed on Get-Rich Bag's face. Boss Miao, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Face is something that people have to support. I'm not even close to you, so why should I give you face? He held the glass with an indecipherable expression on his face. What? Get-Rich Bag's expression froze. What did you say, you little brat? A businessman in a suit beside Get-Rich Bag slammed the table and was about to stand up. Qin Guang glared at him. Little brat? Sit properly. Really, I haven't heard anyone call me a little brat in a long time. Being stared at by Qin Guang, this person felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. He couldn't lift his slightly bent legs anymore. With that, Qin Guang didn't wait for that person to speak. Instead, he held the glass with his right thumb and middle finger and pointed at everyone on the table with his left hand. He enunciated clearly and clearly, "Today all of you came and went because of your face. Let me ask you, what face do you have? We're tired from our long journey and wanted to rest in our rooms, but we were called here to drink and laugh with you. Who are you giving face to? Now that we're here, we haven't even seen the chopsticks and you've ordered 3 glasses. Who are you? I'm giving you face, but who's giving me face? This is Baishui County, but it's also China. Not your Baishui County, but China's Baishui County. There's never been a rule that says a singer has to drink at a table, and there's never been a rule that says a singer has to drink baijiu. So today I won't give you face." With that, Qin Guang exerted force in his hand and crushed the white porcelain cup in his palm. However, the skin on his hand wasn't cut. Instead, he let the white porcelain cup turn into powder and drip the wine onto the table. At the same time, he used the back of his left hand to flip the tray that the waiter was holding. The 5 glasses fell to the ground and shattered, spilling wine all over the floor. For a moment, the banquet hall was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. The group of demons and ghosts had wanted to put the 2 popular stars in their place, but no one had expected Qin Guang to react so fiercely. If their previous behavior was not giving face, then this was basically a slap in the face. Damn it! You're looking for a beating. I'm giving you face but you don't want it. A burly man standing behind Nong and Song saw that his boss was slapped in the face and bellowed angrily. He flipped over and picked up a chair from behind, wanting to smash it towards the back of Qin Guang's head. Seeing this, Big Beard Deng shouted, "Don't." He shouted as he tried to block the attack. But he was one step too late. Qin Guang wasn't hit. Instead, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, he clenched his right fist that had just crushed the cup and casually swung it backward without turning his head, hitting the solid wooden chair. With a loud explosion, wood splinters flew everywhere. The chair was smashed into pieces and flew in all directions. Although he wasn't hit by Qin Guang, the burly man who was only hit by the chair in his hand, felt as if he was struck by lightning. He flew backward for 5 to 6 meters and crashed into the table on the other side. Fortunately, Qin Guang didn't kill him. Otherwise, the force that was sent through the wood would have been enough for him to die 1,000 times. All of this happened too quickly. Just when everyone was dumbfounded, not knowing how Qin Guang sent the man flying, he moved again. Who cares about face? Come. I'm giving you such a big face. Qin Guang took a step forward, raised his hand and slapped down on the huge dining table that was covered with a red curtain and had a diameter of 4 meters. A loud bang rang out and the gigantic dining table shook violently. Starting from the spot where his palm hit, it collapsed to the ground as if it was a dead tree branch that had been smashed by his palm. The table full of dishes and wine fell to the ground, leaving only a circle of people holding chopsticks dumbfoundedly looking at the empty space in front of them. Qin Guang's exquisite internal strength control not only smashed the table, but also didn't let a piece of wood break out and hurt anyone. However, the table was completely shattered. The waiters at the side were even more scared out of their wits. They knew very well how sturdy the table was. "Everyone, I've given you enough face, right?" Qin Guang didn't waste any more time. He turned to Deng Xiaozheng and grinned, "Director Deng, take people back to their rooms to rest. If they haven't eaten enough, ask the hotel to send more food. We still have to shoot tomorrow. Rest early and conserve energy. We don't want to waste time here." This was the first time Deng Xiaozheng saw Qin Guang's power. His heart was pounding. He knew that this kid was not the same as before. Previously he only had a faint guess. Now that he finally saw him angry, it really broadened his horizons. This ferocious tiger released from its cage was enough to take someone's life. Just what was this brat's previous special identity? Damn, with this skill of his, he didn't even need to add post-production special effects to make a martial arts film. Big Beard couldn't care less. He immediately called Rin Chong and the others to leave. He had long wanted to slip away. "Everyone, please excuse me. It's nice to meet you. I hope we can cooperate happily in this trip to Baixi County." After Qin Guang finished speaking, he grinned again. He pulled Jiang Yage and followed Big Beard and the others upstairs, leaving behind a mess in the banquet hall. The bodyguard from Tongyuan, who was sent flying by his inner force, was still groaning on the ground. His companions were standing by the side, not knowing whether to help him or not. When Qin Guang and Jiang Yage passed by, these men were so nervous that their hair stood on end. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they were far away. This is simply overturning the sky. After waiting for a long time for Qin Guang and Jiang Yage's figures to disappear from the staircase, Dan and Song supported his ashen-faced father. With a gloomy face he said fiercely, "What does he think our Baixi County is? How can he behave so atrociously?" The fat official, who was suspected to be the local leader, also blushed. Although he didn't suffer any losses from the beginning to the end, his face was burning with pain. After a night's worth of face, he was now completely disgraced. But when he looked at the table on the ground, he felt a sting in his teeth. How did this celebrity named Qin Guang's palm grow? This was a solid wood table. How did he make the entire table collapse just by slapping a corner? If he had slapped a human body, wouldn't they have been smashed into pieces like this table? Futsai Meng was speechless for a long time. He turned to look at his son. "Stop it. Forget it. It's all your fault. Let's go." With that, Futsai Meng shook his clothes and led the way away. The fat official shouted from behind, "Boss Meng." Futsai Meng turned back. "Merhu, don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Dan and Song chased after Futsai Meng, still a little unwilling. "Shut up. If you like celebrities, go find your own celebrities. I've never cared about you in the past, but this time, we can't afford to offend this Chen Guang. Futsai Meng recalled that a few years ago when he was planning to develop a scenic area, he had led a team deep into the mountains to look for a suitable place to build a villa. When they were deep in the mountains, they had chanced upon a prostitute. At that time his brother had said something frivolous, and in the end he had been slapped into a tree and died on the spot. If not for the fact that he and the others had knelt down and begged for mercy in time, they would have been slapped to death as well. That was a really powerful person, and it was also an experience that Futsai Meng didn't want to recall. Of course, that woman had warned him before she left that he was forbidden from mentioning his encounter with her to anyone else. If not, she would hunt him down for thousands of miles without mercy. But what Chen Guang had done was even scarier than that woman. "Nsong, you must listen carefully. We'll forget about this matter. Don't ever think about Jiang Yage again." "Why?" Dan and Song didn't understand. "Don't ask me why. I just won't allow it." Futsai Meng turned around and gave Dan and Song a kick, then quickened his pace. He was thinking that after they finished filming the movie, he would have to find an appropriate reason to apologize to her. Although everyone in Baixi County respected this boss Meng, he had become a little arrogant over the years and felt that he was really powerful. But now that he had been awakened by Chen Guang's slap, he knew that there were real experts in this world who could kill without leaving a trace. He was also afraid. What had helped him turn Tongyuan Real Estate from a small construction team into the biggest real estate company in Baixi County, other than his ruthlessness, was also the 7-word mantra of, "A wise man submits to circumstances." Dan and Song looked at his father's hurried back view, and there was some disapproval in his eyes. But in the end he didn't dare to contradict his father, and only gritted his teeth secretly. On the other side, Qin Guang and Jiang Yage went upstairs to their room. Along the way, Jiang Yage kept grabbing Qin Guang's hand and looking at it. "Is your hand okay? That piece of wood looks so hard." Jiang Yage said worriedly, but her eyes were looking at his hand with interest. "That's strange. Did you crush the wine glass in your hand just now? Why are you perfectly fine?" Qin Guang snatched his hand back. "You were hoping that something would happen to me?" "Of course not. I was just worried." "Oh, is that so? Then you were worried for nothing. That day when I was with you at the Silver Bull Hotel, I actually deflected a bullet with my fist. This broken piece of wood is nothing." Jiang Yage stuck out her tongue mischievously. "That's amazing." "Of course. You're amazing in that aspect too." "Shut up." Seeing that they were about to return to their floor, Jiang Yage pulled Qin Guang back. What? Don't go and kill people at night. You're not the director of the Guangding General Headquarters anymore." Qin Guang smiled and nodded. "Don't worry, I understand. I don't have the identity of a law enforcement officer now. If I rely on my skills and kill people I don't like, what's the difference between me and those internal force martial artists that I hated the most in the past? It'll also make things difficult for your grandfather and your colleagues in the Guangding General Headquarters, right?" Jiang Yage nodded. "Yes, actually, this is what my grandfather asked me to tell you before I came to Kainan Province this time. I forgot to say it before. But don't worry, I won't let this matter go just like that. I'll call my family later. As long as there's even the slightest bit of unclean behavior in that lousy county magistrate and fortune monger, I'll investigate them thoroughly. They won't have many good days ahead of them." Qin Guang nodded. "It's impossible for them to be clean like that. It's better to investigate them thoroughly. But it'll take a few days. We need evidence to arrest them." "I understand. But tonight the leaders of Kainan Province should greet the people of Baishui County, and they'll settle down." "Good. I reckon that by the time we finish filming here and get ready to move to another place, the investigation team will have almost finished collecting evidence. By that time we can leave 2 days later to watch the show. If we leave 2 days earlier, we'll have nothing to do with it." Qin Guang smiled indifferently. "I hope so." Chapter 977. Everyone went back to their rooms. Poor Master Guang waited for more than half an hour, but Jiang Yage's exercise video still didn't come. She should be busy making phone calls to complain about what happened today. After waiting for a long time, his phone finally beeped. He picked it up and took a look. A video call request. Coming. Whoosh. His clothes were gone. If a man wants to do his job well, he must first take off his clothes. Whoosh. His pants flew too. If a man wants to sharpen his spear, he must first take off his pants. 3 circles to the left and 3 circles to the right. Everyone, let's train together. At this time some people were about to say, why do you have to rely on yourself when you're just next door? Are you stupid? The person who said such sarcastic words must be single. Why did so many people still want to watch videos or watch the live stream of sexy and hot girls when they were clearly married and had wives? It could not be explained in theory, but such a phenomenon existed objectively. Master Guang could tell everyone righteously that this was different. The feeling was really completely different. Watching short videos or large-scale videos, or watching one-on-one live streams like Zhang Yage's were actually for the sake of feelings. Mortals like you don't understand the noble faith of admiring beautiful bodies on the screen. Only faith and feelings could not be erased. Then Qin Guang happily pressed the accept button and was ready to get to work. Hey, Xiaochen, what are you doing? You're half naked and ready to sleep? Old Zhang's big head appeared in the video. His face was oily and cheerful, like the bright lamp in the black liquid, the Maitreya Buddha. Qin Guang was so scared that his hand trembled and his phone almost fell off the bed. The pile driver that had just felt a little bit fell down with a whoosh. Fortunately, he had turned on the front camera facing himself and not down below. Otherwise, old Zhang's eyes might have been injured from the shock. I'm really seeing a ghost. When the call request popped up just now, Qin Guang saw the word Jiang at first glance. He did not think too much about it and only thought that the benefits were in place. Who would have thought that this Jiang was not the other Jiang? You're a man, an old man in his 70s or 80s. Why are you video chatting with me in the middle of the night? What was wrong with him? Fortunately, the old man was talented. Otherwise, if it was someone else who was excited to see a girl but it turned out to be a big baldy like him, he would be so scared that he wilted, okay? After a while, Qin Guang pulled the quilt over himself and looked at old Jiang grumpily, saying, Grandpa Jiang, you should have called me in the middle of the night. Why did you call me? Old Jiang chuckled. Didn't my good granddaughter call me to complain just now? She blamed us for not sending guards to her this time. In the past she always said that she was annoying. Now that she's in trouble she blames me for not making arrangements. Tell me, as a grandfather, why is my life so bitter and difficult? Qin Guang laughed it off. It's indeed difficult. It's hard to please. In the video, old Jiang seemed to empathize with him. So, am I not embarrassed? Didn't I think that you wouldn't be around this time? You might as well not send anyone. Even if there's a hole as big as the sky, you can still take it, right? Qin Guang nodded. Yes, if she can lose even a hair, I will cut off my toes and make soup for you, Grandpa Jiang. *CK off. I don't want to stew your toes. So, Grandpa Jiang, what are you trying to say by playing my video? You really don't have to worry about Jiang Yage's safety. He's safe. Here's the thing. Anyway, we all know what happened today. You did a good job and restrained yourself. You deserve praise. These people in Baishi County are too lawless. Don't worry. I will give you an explanation later. Don't give me an explanation. Give your granddaughter an explanation. I didn't suffer any grievances. Old Jiang nodded again and again. That's right. Anyway, I have sent someone to beat up the rats in Baishi County. Don't do it yourself without evidence. Qin Guang shrugged. If these people don't come to make trouble, I won't provoke them, okay? But I don't think it's so easy. Maybe some people are thinking of secretly making a few people disappear in this uninhabited White Mountain Blackwater. No one will be able to find out. How dare they? Old Jiang glared at him. Qin Guang chuckled. Don't you dare? The two looked at each other for a few seconds through the phone, and old Jiang shook his head with a wry smile. I really can't guarantee it. Rome wasn't built in a day. A place like Baishi County wasn't the only one in the vast Wuxia Empire. Perhaps the people there had been running amok every day, and they had really developed a sky-high courage. Old Jiang seemed to be a little hesitant. What if they really make trouble again? Qin Guang was still smiling. First, I will protect Jiang Yage from any harm. Second, I will kill them all. Even though they were separated by 2 mobile phone cameras and thousands of kilometers, old Jiang still felt the murderous intent from Qin Guang. His extremely powerful personal strength had indeed made this kid a little different from the past. In the past, he liked to make jokes and would only show his edge when he was forced into a desperate situation. Although he could still control himself now, he had become much more angular in the end. His eyes were a bit scary. Okay, that's all for now. Little Chin, have a good rest. After hanging up the video call, old Jean poked his head out from the side. Old Jiang, Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by video chatting with a young man? Old Jiang argued. What do you know? Are you trying to see if your good granddaughter is in his room? Old Jean asked with a smirk. Go away. Just watch your own baby granddaughter. Why are you interfering with me? Old Jiang waved his hand impatiently. In fact, he was glad that the layout of the room behind Qin Guang was different from the one in Song Pavilion. Qin Guang didn't stay still for long. Jiang Yage sent him a message. Do you want to exercise? Qin Guang replied decisively. No, not tonight. Sleep early. Get up early tomorrow to film. Exercise my ass. He was so scared that he didn't want to exercise at all. In the next room, Jiang Yage threw away the thing in her hand and unwillingly pinched the corner of her carefully prepared pink chiffon nightdress, muttering, What's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly not in the mood? After a long time, the more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She kicked the electric thing off the bed. Grandpa must have taken up too much of my time. Otherwise, Grandpa must have called him just now. So annoying. What a busybody. Forget it. There's still a few days before Sister Shuiwei comes. There's no hurry. Another day. Not long after, she adjusted her mood. She jumped onto the bed, rolled up the blanket, and fell into a deep sleep in less than 2 minutes. In the next room, Qin Guang didn't feel sleepy at all. Others might feel sleepy because of the long journey, but not him. Qin Guang leaned against the window, looking at the night sky of Baishuihe, which was much clearer than the 5 capitals. The stars that hadn't been seen for a long time were twinkling in the sky. He muttered to himself, such a beautiful place. What a pity. With his current strength, or perhaps with his identity, killing a few or even dozens of people with criminal records with dirty hands and feet was actually not a big deal that he could not bear. But Qin Guang was afraid himself. He had seen Ouyang Tianxing's human skin mask, and he had also seen the shadow alliances and scrupulous martial artists in the past. Now, whether it was his strength or status, he had actually far surpassed Ouyang Tianxing and the shadow alliance that he had worked hard to build. So Qin Guang was trying his best to restrain his impulse to kill. In the long 130,000 years of the Jinwu continent's life, he had also temporarily fallen into the demon of massacring, unable to extricate himself. When he suddenly woke up, he turned around and saw a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He had to restrain himself to maintain his humanity. No matter how strong a person was, if he lost his humanity, then he would no longer be a person. Moreover, the people in the real world weren't like the people in the Jinwu realm. If they died, then they died. In any case, they would still be a good man after 20 years. In this real world, he didn't know whether people had an afterlife. So he couldn't go on a killing spree. Qin Guang was a good person. He might not be like the sun, but he had a righteous heart. Now that he had become stronger, the more powerful he was, the more responsibility he had to bear. Although he had to do things like punishing evil and promoting good, he couldn't do it just because he liked it. He didn't have the leisure and time to investigate the background of the Bao family's father and son. But now that someone was investigating, there was no need to be anxious. Qin Guang didn't want to become like Ouyang Tianxing. His butcher knife was sharper, but he wouldn't easily unsheath it. Once it was unsheathed, there would be no hidden dangers and he would kill everyone. So he had to be justified so that he wouldn't feel guilty for killing the wrong person. He could see through people's hearts to a certain extent, but he couldn't see through other people's faces. From the past until now, the Bao family's father and son didn't look like good people. But now he couldn't be sure whether they deserved to be executed or not. So he would give them a chance for now and also give himself a chance. If he really found out that there was a problem, it wouldn't be a big deal if he didn't find it troublesome to do it himself. In the police station about 3 to 4 miles away from the scenic hotel, Bao Ensong was bored to death sitting in the chief's office, watching TV and eating melon seeds. Suddenly, the office door opened and a middle-aged man with a square face walked in looking travel-worn. He took off his coat and threw it on the chair. Damn it, the late autumn weather in Baishi is so damn cold. I don't know what's wrong with the county leader's brain. He wants to crack down without a word and there's no warning at all. Then why did you come back after just half an hour? Bao Ensong crossed his legs and sat on the office chair with a square face. He was chewing crispy food in his mouth and he didn't look proper at all. Didn't I come to see you? Since you, young Master Bao, have invited me, how dare I delay outside? Alright, why are you looking for me in the middle of the night? Hurry up and tell me, I still have to go out for patrol after serving you. I asked Deputy Chief Song about it and it seems that a big shot has come to our county and it's very important. I don't dare to be caught red-handed. Bao and Song sat on the seat with the square face but he didn't mind. Instead he sat on the sofa and chatted happily with Bao and Song. Chapter 978. The moment this big shot is mentioned, Wung and Song's stomach is raging, and he spits out the seeds in his mouth. K those big shots. Aren't they just a few celebrities? That mayor who is too much. He pretended to be polite in front of my father, and now he wants you all to crack down on them? Isn't this a slap to my father's and my face? K his ancestors. Do you still want to stay in Baishui River? The square-faced inspector saw Wung and Song looking like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and he seems to know more than him. He is confused. Young Master Bao, what's going on? Can you tell me? When I asked, Deputy Chief Song asked me not to talk too much and he was acting mysterious and nervous. He asked me to just do my job and not ask anything else. I don't really understand. Wung and Song's eyes are wide open. What does Song Liang mean? Is he trying to go against me and my father? Young Master Bao, what kind of celebrities are they? I did not watch the news today. I went out to arrest people in the morning and I don't know what's going on in the county. Wung and Song slaps the table. K. Who else can it be? Qin Guang, Jiang Yage, Deng Xiaozhang and the rest. Big shots? Pui. They're just a bunch of actors and they're the best at acting. Song Liangji was at the table when we were eating. How can he not know who they are? What's there to be nervous about? Can a slap be harder than a bullet? Young Master Bao, do you have a grudge with them? It's not just a grudge. This is a huge grudge. I'm furious and my father is also furious. Do you know that when my father toasted Qin Guang he refused to drink and even flipped the table? He embarrassed me and my father in front of everyone. K, that who fellow was still trying to put in a good word for my father, and I thought he was trying to help us. Now he's trying to suck up to these actors? He must be kidding me. The square-faced deputy chief feels that things are not that simple. Young Master Bao, maybe they really have some background. Wan Song rolled his eyes. Background? What kind of background could they possibly have? If they really had a powerful background, wouldn't they have said so when I asked them to come down and eat with me? Let me tell you that Qin Guang is a gutsy hothead who thinks his fists are the hardest, so he acts like he's the best. Then why are you looking for me now, young master now? Square-faced had a bad feeling about this. That's right, old Shin, we're old friends. You also know that I can't bear to be wronged, not to mention that my father has lost face along with me. We have to give them an explanation. They can't pretend that nothing happened and finish filming in by Shueha comfortably. Otherwise, how can I and my dad face in the future? Wouldn't we become the joke of the county? Square-faced man shook his head vigorously. No, young Master Bo and Boss Bo are both big shots in our county. Who would dare to laugh at you? Damn it. Now County Head Hu and Song Liangji are already going against my dad. Old Shin, do me a favor and find an excuse to mess with them. It would be best if you can detain Qin Guang for a few days. I don't believe that he would dare to hit the police no matter how good he is at fighting. If he dares to resist, you might as well arrange for a hothead to shoot him. Don't worry, as long as I'm around he won't be sentenced to death. I'll take care of the fines and jail time for him. He'll be released in 2 to 3 years and when he's comfortable you guys will get your share of the money. I guarantee you that I'll think of a way to send you to Song Liangji's position the year after next, okay? Old Shin heard this and secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. The person who came this time had really offended square-faced Wound Song. But he really didn't dare to agree and kept shaking his head. This won't work. Young Master Bo, listen to me. Although he's just an actor, he's still a celebrity. If things get out of hand he won't be able to stop it. It's not like you haven't seen how the whole country has been in the limelight for the past 2 years. When the time comes it's not just a matter of keeping his job, he might even lose his head. You're not going to do it. Square-faced man said gloomily. You're going to mess with me like Song Liangji? Of course not. I just feel that this isn't appropriate. It's not worth it. Actually, Old Shin didn't care about the celebrity status of Qin Guang and the others. He remembered that when he had called Deputy Chief Song on the way back, the latter's voice had been trembling. It was obvious that he had been given quite a fright. This wasn't a simple matter. It was definitely not as simple as square-faced man thought. He couldn't get involved in this mess. When he heard that square-faced man actually wanted Qinguang's life, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. This was too heavy a scapegoat. He was just the chief of a small scenic police station, so he couldn't handle it. As the two of them were talking, the office door was suddenly kicked open. The two of them turned to look at the door, only to see Rich Bag and a few men in black suits standing at the door with cold expressions. "What are you guys talking about?" Square-faced man asked sternly as he walked in quickly. Old Xian hurriedly waved his hands. "Boss Bag, nothing. My fat eye glared at him, then turned to face Nong and Song. His hand reached out to grab his stupid son's ear, twisting it as he said angrily, "I just heard from the servants that you came out again. I knew you were going to cause trouble again. Damn it, you're really here." "Ouch. Dad. Ouch. My ear is about to fall off." Square-faced man lifted his head up and shouted non-stop. Square-faced man kicked him again. "Drag this idiot back home and lock him up. Without my permission, don't let him out." "Dad, what do you mean by this? I just can't stand to see you lose face." "Face my A**s. All you care about is face. You've already played us to the point that we're about to lose face." As square-faced man carried square-faced man away, square-faced man turned back and glared at old Xian. "Inspector Xian, I don't know what that prodigal square-faced man said to you just now, but that's not important. Just ignore what he said and let him go. Do you hear me?" Old Xian looked at square-faced man, thinking that this big boss might have felt the severity of the situation and was restraining square-faced man like never before. He didn't dare to tell him that square-faced man had wanted Qinguang's life just now, so he just nodded. "Hey. I'll remember that, boss square-faced man." Actually, young square-faced man didn't say much just now. He just wanted me to see if I could bring people to find some loopholes in their security during filming. I didn't agree to that. Square-faced man nodded in satisfaction. "Good. Inspector Xian, you've handled this well. I heard that your sister bought a house in Tongyuan East City, right?" "Yes, boss square-faced man, your house's quality is excellent. I persuaded my sister to buy it." "Good. Ask your sister's family to come to my company another day. I'll arrange for someone to go with them to the bank to settle the prepayment. What square-faced man told you today, only the heavens, the earth, and you know. No one else knows, okay?" Old Xian was overjoyed. "Of course. Thank you, boss square-faced man." After they walked far away, Old Xian was still happy. Tonight's trip was not in vain. Square-faced man brought square-faced man home. He was full of grievances, but seeing his father's gloomy face, he didn't dare to say anything else. When the father and son arrived home, it was already past midnight. Square-faced man turned back to look at his son. "Come in." Square-faced man shrunk his head and obediently followed him in, feeling extremely wronged. "Dad, I know I was wrong." Square-faced man had used this trick since he was young, and it was especially useful. Regardless of the consequences, he would first admit his mistake and admit his cowardice, then pretend to be even more wronged. No matter how angry his father was, he would always be able to appease his anger. As expected, square-faced man's anger was greatly reduced. He had wanted to give him a good beating, but seeing his pitiful look, his heart softened. Previously, this reckless son of his had dragged 7 or 8 scoundrel friends to kill a female student. At that time, it caused a huge commotion in the county, and he had to use a lot of effort to suppress the matter. At that time, when he wanted to beat him up, he had also pleaded for leniency. At this moment, a middle-aged plump woman walked down the stairs of the villa. "Square-faced man, what are you doing? Don't stare at your son like that. Do you want to eat him up? It's not like you don't know that square-faced man is just a little mischievous. He'll be fine in a few years. Square-faced man, don't bother about your dad. Go up and rest. It's already midnight." The plump woman pushed square-faced man, and square-faced man hurriedly went upstairs. He was finally free. "Sooner or later he'll get into trouble because of your blind doting." Square-faced man glared at the plump woman. The plump woman didn't mind. "What else can you do? You want to hit him for such a small matter? What if you hurt him? You only have this one son." "I understand. Did you have an illegitimate child with that flirtatious and cheap female secretary long ago? You want to cripple square-faced man and leave square-faced man Tongyuan to that illegitimate child, right?" Square-faced man was so angry that he couldn't speak for a while. "Why you? What you? Don't think that I don't know what you're planning." "Nonsense. You're being unreasonable. Square-faced man waved his hand furiously and went straight upstairs. Although what the plump woman said about the illegitimate child was true, he didn't intend to leave that woman a lot of assets. At most he would leave her with a few tens of millions of assets. He said that the plump woman pampered square-faced man too much. But in fact, it was also because the plump woman came downstairs to plead for him, so he secretly found a way out of this embarrassing situation. He comforted himself this way. Actually, as a father, I'm very strict. It's just that I have an unreasonable wife. The reason why Dan and Song ended up in this state was because his mother had stood out to cover for him whenever something happened. It was the same with that female student previously. In the end, he didn't manage to teach square-faced man a lesson. However, seeing how scared he was just now, square-faced man thought that he might have learned his lesson this time. Anyway, he could just lock him up until the filming crew left. Nothing bad would happen, right? After settling everything at home angrily, square-faced man went to call County Magistrate who didn't say much to him. He only said that the provincial government had called to cooperate with Deng Xiaojiang's filming crew, especially public security. They didn't allow any evil forces to cause trouble to the filming crew, and they were also prohibited from interfering with filming in the name of a meal. Square-faced man expressed that he understood. There wasn't much to do tonight. Since the higher-ups had informed him he would get Tongyuan Company to cooperate. He would even personally greet the other big and small forces in the county. County magistrate who was very satisfied with square-faced man's attitude and felt a lot more at ease. Anyway, thank you, boss square-faced man. It wasn't easy for Baishui County to have such a situation. Square-faced man nodded. Understood. Don't worry, old who. I know what to do. That's good, that's good. I won't disturb your rest. Okay, let's talk when we meet again. Chapter 979. After hanging up, someone next to County Magistrate who asked, "Aren't you going to tell him who called?" County Head who shook his head. "Let's not talk about it. There's no point in talking too much. He might even think that I'm trying to scare him. Today's incident had hurt his reputation. Let's cooperate with the higher-ups and pretend that nothing happened after he leaves." That's right. God knows what connections Guang has. We have accidentally stepped on the tiger's tail. County magistrate who took a puff of his cigarette. Don't worry. I will call the city government. Let's keep a low profile and cooperate with them. Let's get the city government to help us talk to them. At this moment, the people of Baishui County still didn't know that a disaster was about to befall them. Things couldn't be passed just because they said so. On the crew's side, although something had happened last night, the professional crew still got up early. At about 6 o'clock they got up one after another and set off at 6:30 sharp. 3 buses filled with staff, plus 8 trucks filled with filming equipment and props, rumbled as they set off for the depths of the scenic spot. The plot of the Baishui scenic area's iconic waterfall was as follows. In order to help the retired hero regain his state and find back the desire to win that had been worn away in the handicraft shop for many years, Jiang Yage, who played the role of a small fan, took him to the deep mountains and forests and let him train like a savage in the mountains and forests. At the same time, she spent a lot of money to hire a retired Muay Thai master and pretended to meet him by chance. Qin Guang and the Muay Thai master met by chance under the waterfall and had a duel. After that, he began to receive technical guidance and special training from the Muay Thai master. Finally, he learned some of the footwork techniques of Muay Thai, and his body functions gradually recovered to the state before he retired. In this film, the male lead played by Qin Guang will be divided into 3 ages, from the prime of his youth to the middle-aged and finally to the old. The middle-aged will have the most scenes and it will be the most complicated. He is very young now, and his makeup must be perfect to make him look like a middle-aged man. This is a great test for the makeup artist. Fortunately, Qin Guang's acting skills are excellent. Even if there are some flaws in the makeup, his performance in front of the camera is impeccable. It was about 10 a.m. when they arrived and the main cast and crew started to touch up their makeup, while the props team and crew got busy. By the time they could start shooting, it was already noon, just in time to receive the bento boxes that the crew had ordered. Each person had 1 box and that was it. They started work at 12:30 a.m., and the afternoon passed in the blink of an eye. The progress was faster than Big Beard had imagined. All the scenes were shot in 1 take, which is an experience that not every director has the chance to experience. Director Deng, shall we leave? Qin Guang asked as he took off his prosthetic body. Big Beard Deng looked up at the sky. Sigh, there are only 3 scenes left. If we move quickly we can finish filming in another hour or so. What a pity. Then let's continue. But we have to shoot during the day and we can't shoot at night. Big Beard had a headache. If he went back now he would have to come back early the next morning and continue shooting after his makeup was done. He was afraid that he would not be able to start work until noon, and then he would have to shoot an hour of scenes which would basically be wasted the next day. Of course, in his original plan the scenes at the Great Waterfall would take at least 2 days. It was already much faster than he had expected to shoot this much in one day. But now he was hanging by the tail. He did not know whether to shoot or not to shoot. For this little scene he would have to waste another day tomorrow and he would not feel good. He was really happy and troubled. After the incident last night, although Qin Guang had won back his face, the other party seemed to have pinched their noses and admitted defeat. But Big Beard's heart was still not at ease. He was afraid that a long delay would bring trouble. What if after 2 days the more he thought about it the angrier he became? What if he couldn't control his anger and ordered the local ruffians of Whitewater River to stir up trouble? How about this? There is a scenic hotel 3 kilometers away from here. Although it is a little expensive and the conditions are not good, we can save a lot of time. Qin Guang, you and the other main leads and take some of the weaker people with you to book the hotel. The rest of the people can set up tents here for the night. There are ready-made bedding and tents in the truck. You don't need to remove your makeup. We will start shooting at dawn tomorrow. After we finish here in the morning, we will go to the village about 10 kilometers away to shoot the remaining scenes. The day after tomorrow we will go to another location, and the scenes in Baishi County will be finished. This way we can at least save a day. What do you think, Qin Guang? Big Beard thought about it and asked. If it were not for Qin Guang and Jiang Yage in the team, Big Beard would have started work immediately if he said he wanted to set up tents and camp on the spot. Now he had to consider Qin Guang and Jiang Yage's feelings. The young actresses next to him were a little reluctant, but they were not qualified to refute since the big shots did not say anything. They had seen the hotel in the morning when the motorcade passed by. They estimated that it could accommodate 30 to 40 people at most, and the remaining 60 to 70 people would probably have to set up tents. With their status they might have to set up tents here. Director Deng, there won't be wild beasts at night in the wilderness, will there? At this moment Shilu poked her head out from the side and said worriedly. In fact, Shilu had finished filming her walk-on scenes, but she still followed them to Kainan province this time. She had strongly requested to do so. Her reason was also very good. She realized that she and Jiang Yage had similar eyebrows and figures. If she were to put on makeup she would even look like Jiang Yage from afar. She could even be a stunt double for Jiang Yage. Although her uncle Shi Changhe firmly opposed this, Shilu had already made up her mind, and his objection was ineffective. Her reason was very good. She had only acted with Qin Guang in Thunderstorm before, and her acting skills had changed dramatically. Now even if she were to be a stunt double, as long as she could act with Qin Guang, the benefits were self-evident. As a director who had seen how good Qin Guang was, Shi Changhe deeply agreed with Shilu's opinion and was even happier because of her ambition. So Shi Changhe once again shamelessly came to plead for mercy. After all, he was used to selling his face, so he sent Shilu back to beg for Big Beard Deng's help. In this drama Jiang Yage was the leading actress. Although there were no martial arts scenes, there were a lot of scenes with a certain degree of danger. Although the film industry had developed to the present, and all aspects of safety protection had been in place, A-list stars still inevitably used stunt doubles to avoid accidents. After all, every day in superstar media was money. Even if there were a few minor injuries, as long as they couldn't go to work, it would still be a loss of tens of millions. Big Beard had never thought about this before. Later on he asked Shilu to put on makeup. Needless to say, Shilu's appearance was a lot more similar to her previous stunt double. The biggest advantage was that she was trained in acting. Although her acting skills weren't very mature, they were still above average. Her talent in sports wasn't inferior to Jiang Yage's either. Even if it was just a long-distance shot or a simple jump scene, she was a lot better than her previous stunt double. In fact, she even took the initiative to imitate the aura of Jiang Yage. However, her identity was a little awkward. But in the end, Big Beard Deng couldn't beat his old friend Shi Changhe. Deep down he also wanted a better effect. So in the end the matter was decided. Xianxia repeatedly reminded Big Beard Deng to take good care of Xilu. Big Beardy also guaranteed that he would split the scenes that would require a stunt double into two. The more dangerous and highly skilled thrilling moves would be done by a professionally trained stunt double. The less dangerous but simple jumps that required close-range shots would be done by Xilu. But even though they were both stunt doubles, Xilu's status in the crew was still relatively high. After all, everyone had to give her some face. So, it was definitely not her turn to stay in the tent. She took the initiative to worry about it for the sake of the others in the crew, so it was not considered overstepping the rules. Big Beard thought for a while and said, "This is a scenic spot after all. During peak season there are many people coming and going. It's impossible to let wild animals come close. There are so many of us, so it's fine to leave a few people to keep watch at night." "Well, that's true." Xilu nodded, knowing that she was worrying too much. Guang shrugged. "I'm fine with it. I can stay wherever I want as long as I don't remove my makeup. It's too hard to change my middle-aged makeup now. It's torture to make me sit there for 2 hours without moving." Jiang Yage also said casually, "I'm fine with it too. I don't want to waste my time." Her idea was simple. First, she wanted to quickly finish filming the outdoor scenes and quickly go back to film the kissing scene. Second, she, Jin Shuiwei, and Qin Guang were the main investors in the entire film, so they could save a day of filming and save a lot of money. Since the two biggest stars had expressed their opinions, even if the others had objections, they had no choice but to do so. After a simple cleaning up of the scene, Big Beard first asked Old Ma to go to the hotel that was built halfway up the mountain and grab all the remaining rooms. Then he began to pick out people from the crowd. As expected, A-list and A-list celebrities like Qin Guang, Jiang Yage, Ren Chong, Zhao Yueling, and Zhou Xian were picked out first. Then the two big-name cameos who had come over recently were also called. The rest were the more delicate girls in the crew and the older ones. They were all arranged to stay in the hotel. Big Beard himself chose to stay and did not go to a hotel with better conditions. That was his personality. To be a director who could convince people, he did not just rely on his glib tongue. More importantly, he had to set an example by doing what he preached. "I Deng Xiaozhang am staying in a tent. You guys can't just complain in your hearts, can you? Maybe I'll stay." After the others got into the car one after another, Qin Guang jumped out of the car and did not leave. He was still a little worried. As an investor, if anything happened, he would not be able to escape responsibility. Although the conditions of the hotel halfway up the mountain were not as good, their safety was guaranteed. This was tantamount to setting up camp in the wild, and it was in the depths of the lush forest. If Xilu really jinxed it and a blind bear came out at night, it would be a big joke. When they heard that he was willing to stay, the people who were picked to stay in the tent were overjoyed. When Qin Guang smashed the table last night, although there were only a few main cast members present, after a whole day of spreading the news, everyone in the crew knew about it. No one knew what a real martial arts master was like, but as long as Qin Guang was there, even if a wild beast came, they would not be afraid. Everyone present felt that there were not many celebrities like Qin Guang these days. Not only did he not put on any airs, he was also very considerate. Compared to those little fresh meats who had been scolding people online recently, it was like heaven and earth. Big Beard was amused. "Then how about staying in the same tent with me tonight?" Qin Guang shook his head. No. I'll stay at the outermost area. If there's any movement, I'll be the first to know. If it wasn't for the fact that I have to act tomorrow, I'd be willing to keep watch." By the time everyone finished their lunch, the sky was almost completely dark. The tents were set up in the shape of a large fan along the foot of the mountain. In the middle of the tent, there was a bonfire made of dead wood that everyone had picked up. It was a different kind of atmosphere. Not long after, car lights came on in the distance. When it got closer, Jiang Yage jumped out of the car and waved from afar. "I'm back." Chapter 980. Jiang Yage waved to Qin Guang, who was sitting by the campfire and reading the script with a charging lamp. This time the rest of the crew was really shocked. What did the delicate Jiang Yage mean by this? Big Beard was more flustered than anyone else. He quickly got up and greeted her. "Oh, Yage, what are you doing?" Jiang Yage stood still and said, "I'll stay here tonight too. Don't make trouble and go back quickly," Big Beard urged. Jiang Yage looked at Qin Guang, who was coming this way, and said with a smile, "The hotel room is a bit tight. Xilu has to squeeze into a bed with 2 other people. Doesn't she have a substitute tomorrow? I was afraid that her makeup would be ruined. Anyway, there were a lot of tents here, so I came back and let Shilu stay in my single room. Otherwise, her protective uncle might say that we treated his baby niece unfairly. Besides, isn't it safer to stay with Chen Guang? Deng Xiaozhang's face stiffened. He thought she was right. Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? Jiang Yage wondered. Everyone has the same tent and sleeping bag. Others aren't afraid of catching a cold, so why should I be? Besides, it's not particularly cold. Am I that weak? Qin Guang greeted her. Oh, okay, sleep whichever side you like. In fact, he had heard the conversation between Jiang Yage and Big Beard from a distance, and he suddenly realized that Jiang Yage was indeed safer by his side. It seemed more comfortable to let her stay in the hotel alone, but if that bastard Bao Ensong didn't give up and wanted to make trouble again, he might really make trouble without him by his side. Although the probability of such a thing happening was not high, the people arranged by Jiang Yage's grandfather had not finished collecting the evidence. They had not acted yet. It was better to be safe than sorry. They had boasted that they would not let Jiang Yage lose a single hair. Even if she was just frightened, they had lost. Seeing that Qin Guang had already expressed his stance, Big Beard couldn't say more and could only helplessly agree. Where are you going to set up the tent? Old Ma, who had been working tirelessly all day and had not had a chance to rest, came over to ask. It seemed that he still had work to do. Jiang Yage pointed at Qin Guang. Of course it's next to him. As time went by, she couldn't help but indulge herself more and more. As long as he didn't sneak into the same tent as Qin Guang, people could gossip all they wanted. If anyone dared to go to the media and gossip, Jiang Yage had a million ways to dig them out. It wasn't the first time that Jiang Yage and Big Beard Deng had worked together as a team with each other. Most of the team were smart people, and no one would be stupid enough to go against their entire lives for a small profit. The night was long, and before they knew it, the moon was high up in the sky. The camp, which was made up of interlocking tents, was completely silent. Even the original owner of the camp, the crickets, had been chased far away and were chirping angrily. In the huge camp, the bonfire in the middle of the camp crackled from time to time under the watchful eyes of a night watcher who added firewood to the fire. The other 4 night watchmen held flashlights and iron rods in their hands, constantly patrolling around the camp. These night watchmen were all professional stunt doubles, and 3 of them were retired soldiers. They had their own jobs, so everyone was relieved to let them keep watch at night. Before they knew it, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Qin Guang walked out of his tent and bumped into a stunt double who was passing by. Mr. Qin can't sleep? Qin Guang grinned. A little. I'll go sit by the bonfire. Actually, he didn't know what was wrong with him tonight. He was fine before lying down, but after lying in bed he couldn't help but feel uneasy. It wouldn't be a big deal if it was just his uneasiness, but he discovered that his internal energy and the earthburster ability, which hadn't shown any activity for a long time, had actually become more active than usual. This was obviously an extremely abnormal phenomenon. If it was in the past, he would definitely choose to enter the cup world to ask Azure what was going on. But now he didn't dare to do so and was still hiding. Unable to figure out what was going on and unable to sleep, Qin Guang could only get up. Perhaps breathing in the fresh mountain air would make him feel more refreshed. Sitting by the bonfire, he chatted with the night watchman who was in charge of adding firewood. From time to time, Qin Guang would raise his head to look at the starry sky, vaguely feeling that the starry sky was flickering faster than usual. It was as though the solidified air had swept across the surface of the earth, refracting the light of the stars. What was going on? Qin Guang shook his head, trying to get rid of the random thoughts in his mind. But it was of no use. In fact, ever since he returned from Mount Baylor after destroying the Broken World, he would occasionally have this feeling. After killing Ouyang Tianxing and becoming a martial sage, this strange feeling became even stronger. He knew that this might have something to do with the heavenly Holy Grail, but there was nothing he could do. Dozens of kilometers away in Baihe County, the Bentley slowly drove into the Villa district. In the afternoon, he entertained the bosses of the construction companies under him at his own clubhouse. After that, he went to the female secretary's house. When he returned home, it was already past 1 p.m. He had originally planned to not return home that night, but his heart felt uneasy and it was better to go back and take a look. From afar, he raised his head and saw that his 3-story villa was built halfway up the mountain. The light in the master bedroom was still on. When the car drove into the villa, he got out of the car and looked up to see that the light in the master bedroom on the third floor had already been extinguished. His heart skipped a beat as he felt that something was wrong. He went upstairs but did not go to the master bedroom. Instead he went straight to Bao Song's second bedroom. He twisted the door lock from the outside and realized that it was locked from the inside. He then started to knock on the door as he shouted, "Little brat. Are you in there? Come out." There was no movement. The door to the master bedroom next door opened. It was his wife. "What are you shouting for? It's the middle of the night and you're not letting me sleep. Stop knocking, Bao Song is not in the mood to deal with you." Suddenly Mao Futsai understood that Bao Song was definitely not in there. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. "You stupid woman. Sooner or later we will all die because of you." Ignoring him, Mao Futsai turned around and held onto the stairs as he shouted, "Ma Song. Come up here." 30 seconds later his bodyguard captain Ma Song walked up awkwardly. "Boss." "Kick the door open." Mao Futsai pointed at Bao Song's bedroom. Ma Song's face turned red. "That boss Master Mao is not in there. He left 3 hours ago." Mao Futsai slapped Ma Song's face hard. "Are you treating my words as bullsh*t? Didn't I say that before those people leave he is not allowed to go out?" Ma Song looked at the fat woman helplessly. His meaning was self-explanatory. Mao Futsai could not take it anymore. He turned around angrily to look at his hopelessly stupid wife and gave her another slap. "You're going to kill me. You're really going to kill me." The fat woman was stunned by the slap. She stared at Mao Futsai in disbelief. "You actually hit me?" Mao Futsai kicked her again. "Damn it, don't act in a drama with me. I'm hitting you. Do you know how scary Chen Guang is? He's 10 times scarier than the woman who killed old Geng with one slap. This matter could have passed but you let your stupid son out. With his personality he'll definitely go and cause trouble again. If we really piss him off he can crush us with just a finger." The fat woman did not believe him. "You're talking nonsense. Don't brag. Who doesn't know that you killed old Geng because you wanted to take your brother's money? Don't make up nonsense like slapping someone into a tree or something. Song is your biological son. How can you bear to put him under house arrest? So what if he wants to go out and drink with his friends?" Mao Futsai did not expect that his wife would not believe him even though he had only told her about it. She had always thought that he was the one who killed his brother old Geng. "You." He was so angry that his lips were trembling. "You're so stupid. Why did I marry an idiot like you and give birth to an even more idiot? Drink some wine. If he really went out to drink, why would I care? He's going to poison all of us." The fat woman came back to her senses and pounced on Mao Futsai hysterically. "You've finally said it, haven't you? That's what you've always been thinking, right? You've always despised the two of us, right? If my dad hadn't given you his sand quarry, would you be where you are today? You ungrateful ingrate. I'll fight it out with you. Get lost." Mao Futsai was extremely impatient. He punched the fat woman hard in the face again. Then, ignoring her injuries, he shouted, "Ma Song, come with me. Hurry up and think of a way to contact Song. You must pull him back quickly." The two of them went downstairs, but Ma Song held his phone helplessly. "Boss, I can't get through to Master Mao's phone. He switched off his phone. His friends' phones are also switched off." Mao Futsai was furious. He kicked the coffee table again, making a loud clang. "This idiot. Call people immediately. Call everyone from Tongyuan. Call the people from the other gangs too. Let's go into the mountain. Let's go into the mountain now. I hope it's not too late. Even if you want me to kneel and kowtow to Chen Guang, I'll do it." Get Rich Bag quickly walked to the door as he instructed. Suddenly his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Mayor Hu. As soon as the call was connected, County Magistrate Hu's anxious voice could be heard. "Boss Mao. What the hell are you doing? Didn't you say you know what to do? Didn't you say you know what to do? It's your son's fault. Now that things have gotten out of hand, there's no way to clean up this mess. Are you going to drag everyone from Bai Shuihe down to hell?" Mao Futsai's hand trembled as he held his phone. His heart sank. "Old Hu, what's going on? I just found out that idiot Song escaped from home. What's wrong? You really have a good son. He brought people to kidnap Jiang Yage. Let me tell you, the one who called me and the secretary to ensure the safety of the crew was the leader of the provincial party committee. and the leader of our Kainan province's military. Jiang Yage and Qin Guang are very close. If anything happens to her, it won't be enough for all of us to chop our heads off 10 times. Mao Fatsai's body went limp and he almost fell to the ground. His mind was filled with thunderclaps at the same time. He knew his son's character and he would definitely not do anything good. Not only did he offend Qin Guang, who he could not afford to offend, but he also pierced the heavens. How did I, motherf asterisk cur raising a bastard? It's all my fault for this stupid woman at home. Don't *king talk about who's to blame. The entire county's police force has been mobilized, and there's only one road from the scenic waterfall. You just have to pray that your son will bring people back and will be able to block them. If something really happens, I'll escape to Burma tonight. Do as you see fit. Anyway, I'll say this, you'd better be mentally prepared. If Jiang Yage really loses a single hair, the best outcome would be to kill your stupid son and his accomplices on the spot. All of us might still have a chance of survival. County head who hung up the phone. Mao Fatsai struggled to get up from the ground and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Quick! Quick! Go into the mountains! Go into the mountains!" Chapter 981. Endless sirens rang through the entire two-lane road leading from Baishui County to the depths of the scenic area. The densely packed police cars were like ants moving house, drawing long shadows on the road. In the police station inside the entrance of the scenic area, Old Shin's face was even paler. He was desperately urging his colleagues in the station. "Hurry up. All of you hurry up." He pointed at the intersection outside. "The police cars from the county branch are already in front of us. If we don't hurry up, we'll be punished. We'll all be in trouble." Among the 8 or 9 colleagues, many of them still looked extremely sleepy. It was obvious that they had just rushed over from their respective homes. Most of the staff in the scenic area police station lived in the city. The branch and a few police stations in the border city had already started moving, so these people either stared at their cars or rode electric cats to the scenic area police station. This was just a small scenic area police station, and only a few of the regular staff could afford their own cars. Moreover, when they heard that they were going to be dispatched, even if they had cars, they were smart enough to choose another route. No one was willing to drive their own car to the police station. "Chief Shin, we're all here, but there's only one van and one Jetta. It seems like we can't finish all of them." The deputy chief spoke as he took out a bottle of mineral water from the tail of the van and poured it down his head. He had no choice as he had to drive later, so he needed to be refreshed. Old Shin first looked at the others and calculated in his mind for about 10 seconds. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "All those above 30, get in the van. Young lads under the age of 30, you can go find your own bicycles, electric kittens, or borrow motorcycles from nearby. Even if you can't get anything, you have to walk over here. Let's go." This scene was happening in many police stations further away in Baishui County. Even in an Air Force training base about 100 kilometers away from here, 3 military helicopters that were in combat mode also took off without warning. As for the Baishui County Armed Police Squadron, they had gathered and set off even before the police system had reacted. Now they were at the very front. It was the duty of the soldiers to obey orders, and so were the police officers. They didn't need to care about why they had to be dispatched. They only needed to get ready and set off after the order was given, and then appear at the place where they were needed within the stipulated time. Even though Old Shin didn't know the reason why they had to be dispatched so urgently, he subconsciously felt that it might have something to do with Bao and Song. But now he could not ask about it. Many people knew that he was close to Dan and Song, but in the face of such a major issue, he had to make his stand clear. All of a sudden, the entire Baishui County shook violently. This was no longer as simple as 3 tremors. This was a magnitude 8 earthquake. The head of the Kainan province's military, who was directly in charge of this matter, and the head of the Kainan province's police system, who was coordinating with him, shivered uncontrollably at the thought of this terrifying situation. Just now, they were worried that Baishui County didn't know the seriousness of the matter and would reveal Jiang Yage's true identity. That was why County Magistrate who said those words when he was talking to Fortune Bag. Under normal circumstances, even if a senior Chinese official had corruption or made some mistakes in principle, he wouldn't be sentenced to death as long as the impact wasn't too severe. However, if something were to happen to Jiang Yage and Baishui, the Bao father and son, as well as the entire Baishui County's officialdom, which had been entangled with the Bao father and son for so many years, would definitely be destroyed. Even the heads of 10 people might not be enough. At this time, Bao Ensong, who had caused a huge disaster, still didn't know what kind of hornet's nest he had poked. In order not to be affected by his meddlesome father, he even turned off his mobile phone and used the phone of the lackey he had pulled over to contact the lackey at the intersection. At this time he was sitting in the middle of a 7-seater Toyota Prado with a face full of excitement and pride. There was also a Hyundai Tucson behind the Prado, and he had pulled a total of 9 people in the 2 cars, most of whhom were his best buddies. There were 8 people in the 2 cars who had participated in the killing of the female student. Among this group of people, there was only one young man who was newly called. It was said that he was the son of a hunter in the mountains and was especially familiar with the mountainous areas. Bao Ensong was also thinking of finding an accomplice that his father wouldn't expect to use his mobile phone. As for his other buddies, they had all turned off their mobile phones under his request. Woo 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 woo. Sobs could be heard coming from the last row of the Prado, and the back of Bao Ensong's chair was being kicked. He was a little impatient and straightened his body to push the girl's leg down. What are you screaming for? Are you afraid now? Weren't you very capable before? Didn't you think that you were a big shot? Did you think that I wouldn't dare to touch you? Why don't you find out what kind of person I, Bao Ensong, am? Do you think you're the first celebrity to fall into my hands? To tell you the truth, I, Bao Ensong, have never failed to sleep with a woman I want to sleep with. Bao Ensong couldn't help but feel proud. As he said these words, his mind was thinking of all the tapes, CDs and VCDs he had collected over the years. Jiang Yage looked so youthful and invincible in the movies and MV. It wouldn't be long before he would trample on her pride and make her cry under his body. Actually, with his previous habits, he might not even need to take her away. He could just do it in the hotel room. After that, no one would be able to let out a fart. But in the end he changed his mind and chose to tie her mouth, then use a sack to tie her up, carry her down and stuff her into the car. The reason was very simple. Others didn't dare to stop him, but Qin Guang did. Although he had a gun, Bao Ensong was also afraid that if Qin Guang came in and killed him he would be caught off guard. That slap was very vicious and no one would be able to take it. Besides, this time he didn't want to be the only one who was comfortable. Because of Qin Guang and Jiang Yage, he and his father had lost face. He wanted to completely destroy Jiang Yage both physically and mentally. So he had to find another place where no one would disturb him. He and his brothers who were with him today would serve her well. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. She was lucky to be able to survive and he could just let her go after that. Bao Ensong wasn't afraid that she would sue him. What a joke, did celebrities still want to earn money? If she was an ordinary woman she might really go all out and sue him. But this was Jiang Yage, who was famous for her youthful image. Besides, Bao Ensong wasn't afraid that she would sue him at all. No one could do anything about what happened in Bai Shui's territory. If she was unlucky she would die. Bao Ensong didn't think it was a big deal. He would dig a hole in the mountain and bury her. This wasn't the first time. He even made the people who went upstairs wear headgear, which was rare. This time he was much more careful than before. The girl who was trapped in the back seemed to become even more irritable after hearing Bao Ensong's words. She bent her leg and wanted to kick his backrest, still whimpering. Don't waste your energy. Think about how you're going to serve me and my brothers later. If you perform well you might still be able to live. At this moment the old-fashioned phone in Bao Ensong's hand rang. It was a call from the informant hiding in the bushes at the intersection. Young Master Bao. Bad news. Bad news. Bao Ensong scolded impatiently. Stop talking nonsense. What exactly is it? Hurry up and say it. Did old Shin bring his men out? No. The person on the phone seemed to be too nervous and stuttered. Then why are you so surprised? Bao Ensong was about to hang up. So many police cars. So many police cars are following behind 8 trucks from the county. I feel that all the police officers in the county are on the move. It's so densely packed that I can't even count how many of them are there. Bao Ensong was so shocked that he almost dropped the phone in his hand. Brake. Hurry up and brake. After a short moment of confusion he hurriedly shouted. At this moment the off-road vehicle was driving back. From what the informant said, based on the commotion, it seemed that the entire nest had been mobilized, and the road would definitely be blocked. If he were to drive back in this direction, wouldn't he be walking right into a trap? Young Master Bao. The informant on the phone spoke again. What's the matter now? I've been discovered. The informant hiding in the bushes had a strong flashlight shining on his eyes, and he couldn't see anything clearly. A cold and dark muzzle was pointing at his head from the side. Bao and Song cursed, F***CK. After that he hung up the phone. His mind was extremely confused. Didn't he just kidnap a celebrity? Was this necessary? What exactly was going on? It was one thing for the police to be mobilized, but why did the armed police also take action? It wasn't worth it, right? He took out his phone, which had been switched off, and was a little hesitant. He wanted to turn on the phone and call his dad, but when he thought of Moneybag's insistence on placing him under house arrest, he couldn't help but feel a little indignant. He turned his head and looked at the young man beside him, who was dressed like a country bumpkin but had a fierce face. Huzi, are you familiar with this mountain? The young man called. Huzi grinned. Brother Bao, it's not that I'm bragging, but in this area, even with my eyes closed, I can go into the mountains to hunt for deer to go with your wine. That's good. Bao and Song gritted his teeth. Get out of the car. All of you get out of the car. Bao and Song shouted and was the first to jump out of the car. He then called Huzi and another strong young man to carry the woman trapped in the black sack. Young Master Bao, this car, don't bother about it. Anyway, it's stolen from your garage. Later you can tell your dad that it was stolen. Who cares if he believes it or not, anyway we can get away with it. At Bao and Song's command, the group of 9 jumped off the road, turned around and ran deep into the mountains. No matter how many people there were, as long as they couldn't catch them in the act, they could just make a detour and go back. How big of a deal is it? It must be that Huzi who is pretending to agree but secretly opposing, wanting to mess with me and my dad. Damn it, I have something on you, I'll deal with you later. But almost at the same time at the campsite, Qin Guang, who had just returned to his tent to lie down for less than half an hour, was woken up by someone shouting. It was Big Beard Deng's voice, coming from a distance and getting closer as if he was shouting and running at the same time. Actually, when Big Beard Deng shouted for the first time, the alert Qin Guang had already woken up, but he was wrapped in his sleeping bag, so it took some effort to unzip it and get out. Qin Guang, who was only wearing his long johns, opened the tent and walked out. Uncle, what's wrong? Did something happen? As Qin Guang asked, he craned his neck to look around the campsite. Other than a bear attacking the campsite, he really couldn't think of anything else that could make Big Beard so flustered. At this moment, Jiang Yage also poked her head out from her tent, and with sleepy eyes she asked, Big Beard, what's wrong? At the same time, more and more people in the campsite poked their heads out from their tents to look around. Big Beard Deng looked flustered, his clothes disheveled, his hair disheveled, and he was still holding his phone with the screen lit up. He first looked at Qin Guang, then at Jiang Yage. His mind was still thinking about the deafening news from the phone call, but he was also thinking about Jiang Yage's identity. He took a deep breath, then shouted at Jiang Yage, bad news. Jiang Yage, you've been kidnapped. In the huge camp, similar voices of surprise rose and fell one after another. Especially Jiang Yage's voice was the loudest. What the hell? Chapter 982. Aren't I right here? Jiang Yage stretched her hand out from the zipper of the tent and pointed at her own face, completely dumbfounded. Big Beard Deng was stunned. His half-asleep mind slowly became clear. That's right. Then what was that phone call just now? By Shuihe's county head, who called to inform me that you were kidnapped by a few masked men at the Scenic Hotel. After a brief moment of confusion, Jiang Yage's expression changed. It's over. It was Shilu who had been kidnapped. I let her sleep in my room and she didn't remove her makeup. She must have mistaken me for her. Big Beard Deng sat on the ground. His old friend Shichonghe's exhortations were still ringing in his ears. I'll **CK him. He never expected that nothing would happen to Shilu as a stunt double. Instead, she would be mistaken for Jiang Yage and kidnapped while she was resting. Even if those people masked their faces, it was obvious that the only person in Baishuehe County who could do such a thing was Bao and Song, that unlucky rich kid. This bastard's guts were so fat that they were about to explode. Qin Guang instantly understood the situation and his face darkened. It wasn't strange that the other party kidnapped the wrong person. Big Beard pursued perfection when filming. The stunt makeup he did for Shilu was to recreate Jiang Yage's appearance. Moreover, the other party must have rushed into the room to kidnap Shilu. The lighting wasn't good, so it wasn't strange for them to kidnap the wrong person. Perhaps someone in the hotel had leaked the information to Bao and Song, and he knew that it was Jiang Yage's room. It was just that Jiang Yage ran out on her own, and no one noticed that the person in the room had changed. Although Qin Guang and Shilu had some conflicts during the filming of Thunderstorm, she apologized again and again, and Qin Guang knew that she didn't have any bad intentions, so he didn't care about it anymore. Later on, seeing that she was quite motivated, Qin Guang actually quite admired her. Recently, he had been giving her some pointers on her acting skills from time to time. Qin Guang knew that this little girl might have some feelings for him, but he didn't want to cause any more trouble, so he deliberately kept his distance. Gradually, her youthful feelings faded away, and she simply worshipped him. Now that she had become a scapegoat for Jiang Yage, Qin Guang felt that he could not ignore it. "Do you know where the kidnappers went? I'll go save them." As Qin Guang spoke, he turned back into the tent, took out his coat and quickly put it on. Big Beard seemed to be a little hesitant. He didn't want Qin Guang to take the risk, but when he thought of his skills he felt at ease. Although he was bare-handed, the power of his slap was equivalent to holding a grenade in his hand. In addition, he seemed to have held a special position in the past. Maybe he was even more powerful than the Soldier King in the novel that a certain producer had recommended to him. Big Beard was also very anxious. After all, that was his niece that his old friend had asked him to take good care of. If something really happened, he couldn't explain it to Xianxia. Now that Qin Guang set off from here, he might arrive faster than the police. So he really had to count on him. After county head who said that the kidnappers were kidnapped, he drove 2 SUVs in the direction of the county town. This road in the scenic area is a dead-end road, and there's only one direction in the county town. Now all the people in the county town have been mobilized, and the armed police have also been mobilized. If we're lucky, we might be able to catch them on their way back. But it seems that they've sent spies at the intersection. We can't rule out the possibility that the kidnappers abandoned the cars and went into the mountains. All the police and armed police have been mobilized? Qin Guang asked. Big Beard nodded. That's right. After all, they thought that the person who was kidnapped was Jiang Yage. As old Deng spoke, he turned his head to look at Jiang Yage. He didn't know if he should feel lucky or have a headache. Even if it was Shilu, it wouldn't be a good thing. Alright. I'll go save them. As Qin Guang spoke, he turned and was about to leave. Jiang Yage suddenly rushed out of the tent. She was also very agile and had actually dressed up. Wait a minute, I'll go with you. What are you going to do? Big Beard Deng immediately wanted to dissuade her. But Jiang Yage went straight to Qin Guang. I was the one who let Shilu stay in my room and she was thought to be kidnapped. I can't just sit back and do nothing. Old Deng still wanted to stop her. What can you do to help? Unexpectedly, Qin Guang nodded vigorously. That's right. Get on my back. I'll carry you. That way it'll be faster. Qin Guang agreed to Jiang Yage's seemingly unreasonable request. The reason was simple. Even though there were many people here, the safest place was undoubtedly by his side. There was no other choice. Anyway, the speed of running alone or running with her on his back was about the same. Instead of leaving her here, it was better to bring her with him. If he left, that rich second-generation surnamed Bo realized that he had caught the wrong person and boldly came back. Then he would be lured away, leaving his rear defenseless. If Jiang Yage was really kidnapped, it would be a big problem. Jiang Yage flew to Qin Guang's back. Big Beard still wanted to dissuade her. This isn't good. Isn't Solomon more of a hindrance than a help? Don't take her with you, okay? It's not safe. Qin Guang waved his hand. There's nothing unsafe about it. She's the safest with me. In order to dispel Big Beard's doubts, Qin Guang didn't have time to explain to him slowly. There was a basketball-sized stone next to him. Qin Guang held Jiang Yage's buttocks with his right hand and kicked the stone with his left foot. He then clenched his left hand into a fist and punched the stone in the middle of the air. With a loud explosion, the stone that Qin Guang's fist hit instantly exploded into a torrential downpour of pear blossoms. The pear blossoms scattered into the forest, startling countless birds. 2 or 3 trees in the distance slowly collapsed. It was obvious that the stone had broken their trunks. Big Beardy and the crew members behind him were dumbfounded. Their minds were in a daze. What was this? Human shotgun? No human cannon. This guy could turn grass, trees, flying stones into knives, spears, swords, and halberds. Everyone couldn't help but sympathize with the group of people who had kidnapped Shilu. Regardless of whether Shilu was hurt or not, those people were probably going to die. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Mr. Chen, let's go together. A few stunt doubles wanted to follow. But this time, Qin Guang didn't want to waste any more time. He ran forward with Jiang Yage on his back. He said loudly, "No need. Be careful here in case the kidnappers have accomplices. Just don't let anything else happen." Before he could finish his sentence, he and Jiang Yage had already disappeared hundreds of meters away. In the distance, only a spot of light could be seen shooting away. It should be Jiang Yage holding a strong flashlight that the crew used to illuminate the area. What kind of speed was that? Usain Bolt won the Olympic gold medal only because he didn't participate in the Olympics. You're not a leg but a pair of flaming wheels, right? Director Deng, should we inform the people in Baixi County that the kidnappers caught the wrong person? Old Ma, who was dressed crookedly, poked his head out from beside Big Beard and asked. Big Beard shook his head. No, tell everyone to pack up. We'll gather at the hotel first. I think the police will be here soon. We might have to go into the mountains to help search for the kidnappers. Inform the others too. Don't tell the police that the kidnapped person is not Jiang Yage but Shi Lu. Old Ma was stunned for a moment, then suddenly understood. Got it. Big Beard's consideration was understandable. He thought that the kidnapped person was Jiang Yage, so all the military and police in Baixi County had been mobilized. But if they knew that Jiang Yage was safe and sound and that the kidnapped person was just another small star, even if she was the niece of the famous director Xianxia and had some status, there was no doubt that she was far inferior to Jiang Yage. The other parties' search and rescue efforts, and even their attitude towards this matter, would be greatly weakened. This was not difficult to understand. It was a very common understanding of the world. Xianxia had some status in the entertainment industry, but his niece was just a relative of an artist. She could not be mentioned in the same breath as a talented girl like Jiang Yage. Hiding a little information and telling a white lie would not change the other party's ultimate goal of searching for the hostage. Instead, it would make the military and police involved in the mission maintain a higher degree of attention on this matter. Even for the grassroots police, it was the same to save whoever was saved. As long as they gave the order, they could search the mountains and pursue the kidnappers. But the people Big Beard Deng wanted to hide were the middle and high-level officials like county magistrate who, in order to protect their positions, they would definitely work harder to mobilize all the resources they could. If it were Shi Lu, she would definitely not receive such treatment. The earlier they rescued her, the earlier Shi Lu would be out of danger, and the less likely she would be hurt. Even if it was just a 1 in 1,000 chance, Big Beard Deng was willing to bear the responsibility of hiding the information. He was not afraid of being investigated later. On the other side, Wang and Song and the rest got out of the car and went deeper into the mountains. Huzi was not bragging. As a professional hunter, he actually carried a portable GPS device with him. With this device, it was much more convenient to locate them. They hurried along the way. Brother Bao, where should we go now? Huzi was in charge of leading the way, but he did not have a clear direction. We've already gotten out of the car and ran for about 10 minutes. We're almost a kilometer away. If we go any further, we'll really be deep in the mountains. Wang and Song urged, so what if we're deep in the mountains? Hurry up. Hurry up. Huzi shone the flashlight in front of them. What they saw was a rather dense forest. The wind blowing out of the forest had a damp and cold smell. Here we're still considered a human settlement that has been cleaned up from time to time. But after passing through this forest, we might encounter wild beasts if we go further in. Wang and Song asked, will there be ferocious beasts? Huzi nodded. That's possible. Bears are the most common. Chapter 983. Wang and Song asked again, then where do we go from here? How long will it take to get there? Huzi did not slow down and replied without hesitation, if we walk straight ahead for about 25 miles, we will reach the neighboring county's Moji town. If my dad and I go hunting in the mountains, we can reach there in about 5 to 6 hours. But Master Wang, you are not familiar with the roads in the mountains and we are carrying a person. I estimate that it will take at least 8 hours to reach Moji town. Wang and Song thought for a while. We are not afraid of wild beasts, we have 3 guns, but the person we are carrying, he wanted to let them leave the sack here, but he was reluctant to do so. It wasn't that he was worried that Jiang Yage would die here. He didn't care about Jiang Yage's life or death at all. It was just that he had spent so much effort today and alarmed so many people. So far, he hadn't even had a sip of soup before leaving Jiang Yage here, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Let her come down and walk by herself. Why does she have to carry it? He saves energy, but I am tired. Another person who was carrying the sack with Huzi said while panting. Wang Ansong squeezed the gun in his hand and thought that it made sense. That's true. Shilu wanted to hit Wang Ansong the moment she was put down, but the black muzzle was pointed at her head. Wang Ansong said coldly, "You are messing around, why don't you try again?" Shilu froze on the spot. Her adrenaline was still stimulating the top of her head, but her remaining rationality told her that the man in front of her might really shoot. I'm still young, I cannot die here. I must think of a way to survive. Shilu stopped fooling around. Instead she turned her head and looked around. She knew from the beginning that these people had already brought her into the mountain. As far as she could see, the mountain was pitch black. I will pretend to walk with them, and when they are not paying attention I will turn around and run deep into the dark mountains. Maybe I can escape. If I really can't escape and these people want to use force, I will fight with them even if I am killed in one shot. But now I cannot give up until the last moment. I won't mess around. Shilu forced herself to calm down, and then pretended to be timid as she replied. Actually, she didn't need to pretend. She was really scared at this moment. It's good that you're sensible. Let's go. Follow in front. Dang and Song grinned smugly. Seeing that she was so obedient, he thought of Jiang Yage's cold and aloof demeanor at the banquet yesterday. Now she was like a frightened rabbit, and he felt a strange sense of accomplishment. As for Qin Guang, he carried Jiang Yage on his back and walked back the way they came. In less than 2 minutes they passed by the hotel in the scenic area, which was now in a mess. At this moment the assistant director was leading a group of people to make a scene at the hotel, accusing the hotel management of being irresponsible. Who would dare to come up and kidnap someone? The hotel knew that there was definitely a mole among their own people, but they couldn't catch the mole in such a short time. The people that Wang Tsong found were all local gangsters, and they were familiar with the hotel's layout. They ran out of the fire escape after kidnapping the people, and the hotel didn't notice anything at all. Of course, even if they found out if the mole revealed his identity, the hotel wouldn't be able to do anything to Wang Tsong and his group. They had been acting like tyrants in Baishi County for a long time. Jiang Yage, who was lying on Qin Guang's back, saw the commotion and asked, "Should we go over and help?" Qin Guang shook his head. "No, the police will deal with it when they arrive. These are all small matters. We just need to save the people first. Turn off the flashlight." "Why? Isn't it because we can't see the road?" Jiang Yage didn't understand. Qin Guang patted her butt. "Actually, the flashlight is for you to light the way. I don't need to look." "Why?" "I practice kung fu to support night vision." In this regard, Qin Guang really wasn't bragging. There were more than 400,000 kinds of martial arts in Wuxia. Among them there were no less than 10,000 that strengthened eyesight. After coming out to the real world, although the power of his martial arts was weakened due to the weakening of yin and yang qi, he was able to use his eyes to see the road clearly with the help of the weak starlight and moonlight in the sky. It was no different from daytime. Jiang Yage didn't believe it at first. After trying to turn off the flashlight for more than a minute, Qin Guang was still walking as if he was flying. He wasn't affected at all. "You really have night vision? What else? Do you think I'm bragging? 360-degree soft night vision illuminates your beauty. Stop talking nonsense. We are in a hurry to save people." "I didn't slow down. Didn't you notice that we are almost flying?" Qin Guang really wasn't joking. At this time, under the burst of his internal strength, he could cover more than 10 meters in a step. However, most of his strength was used to push forward. He didn't raise his height much, so Jiang Yage didn't feel it was obvious. The two of them ran forward for nearly 10 minutes. They arrived at the place where Nam Yun Kang and his group abandoned the car before the armed police and police. They saw 2 SUVs parked on the side of the road. Qin Guang touched the hood of the Overlord. "Still hot. The engine has been off for almost half an hour." Jiang Yage was surprised. "How do you know?" Qin Guang didn't explain to her. It would be complicated if he explained it. As the invincible god of racing, he was familiar with the performance of all the cars in the world. The Overlord was a large SUV that sold well. Qin Guang was even more familiar with it. He was very familiar with the structure of the car. When the engine was working, the speed at which the heat dissipated after the engine was off. He had a basic idea of the temperature of the car when the engine was running. His guess in half an hour might not be completely accurate, but it was close. Then where did they escape to? Jiang Yage turned her head and looked around. She felt that both sides of the road were dense forests. It was so quiet that there wasn't any sense of direction. Should I call the police? Jiang Yage asked again. Qin Guang shook his head. No need. I know where they went. I also know that Shilu is being carried by someone. How did you know? Qin Guang slapped her but heavily again. Don't ask so many whys. Are you 100,000 whys or something? Save them first. Chase. All right, that's true. Qin Guang turned around and carried Jiang Yage into the forest. He didn't slow down at all. After 2 or 3 steps, thunder roared in the sky. In an instant, bean-sized raindrops poured down. Even though the leaves were dense, it couldn't stop them for a moment. In less than 30 seconds, large droplets of water began to patter down on the mountain forest. Jiang Yage was still lying on top of Qin Guang, her chest pressed tightly against his back. The sky and earth were filled with the pitter-patter of the heavy rain, but Jiang Yage's heart was exceptionally calm. This was because she realized that no matter how heavy the rain was, or how heavy the raindrops were, they couldn't land on her. The large raindrops passed through the forest and fell from the sky. However, they would always explode about 3 feet above her and Qin Guang's head, and then turn into water that flowed in all directions. It was as if there was a transparent umbrella above their heads. This must be some kind of kung fu of his. It was really amazing. This is bad. As the two of them ran, Qin Guang suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong? The ground is a little soft. Previously, when Wound Song and his group passed by, they more or less left some footprints. Now that the rain is too heavy, I'm afraid that their footprints will be washed away soon. Qin Guang frowned as he stared ahead. His speed had unknowingly slowed down, and it was getting harder and harder to distinguish the footprints. Then what should we do? Jiang Yage said anxiously. Qin Guang put her down. Come down first, I'll think of a way. As he spoke to Jiang Yage, Qin Guang looked up at the sky. It was a pity that he hadn't learned how to track and capture special agents. If he had known that this would happen, he would have looked for Dai Quan, the leader of Xianxia clan, to learn some skills. At this moment he wanted to make a last-minute effort, but the Holy Grail was left in the satchel at the side of the tent. It was a good idea to wait for the police here. Maybe they had police dogs, but it would take an hour to drive from the county to this location, and it would take at least an hour for them to catch up with him and Jiang Yage. Qin Guang couldn't wait any longer. What he was afraid of now was that once Wound Song realized that the pursuers were too strong, he would simply kill them. Although he had many tricks up his sleeve, he couldn't snatch a life from the hands of the King of Hell. It would be too unjust to let Shilu die just like that. Jiang Yage didn't know what he was planning, but seeing his solemn expression, she didn't dare to disturb him. Qin Guang wrinkled his nose and slightly relaxed his power. He let a drop of rainwater the size of a bean fall on his fingertip and looked down at the rainwater. The air was filled with the sour smell of dried branches and rotten leaves after being soaked in rainwater, but it was mixed with the fragrance of plants. Qin Guang smelled a different and familiar smell from this smell. The rainwater that was wrapped by his inner strength floated on his fingertip, and there was a different light that only he could see. On the whole earth, there had always been yin and yang qi that was infinitely similar to the yin and yang qi in the realm of true martial arts. However, it was so thin that it was almost undetectable, but it was of a higher realm. As for this kind of aura, there was actually no clear name in the real world. Those who cultivated their inner strength at sunrise or midday would call it the essence of the sun. People who practiced inner strength in the middle of the night would call it the essence of the moon, or the essence of the moon, and so on. People who practiced inner strength in the middle of the night would call it the essence of the moon, or the essence of the moon, and so on. In Wenwen's painting volume it was called the righteous qi of the heaven and earth. People who practiced martial arts accumulated inner qi, breathed in and out, communicated with heaven and earth, and used it as the foundation and source to accumulate inner strength. In addition to the inner qi in the dantian, there were these different names, but the essence was exactly the same, essence of heaven and earth. Otherwise, why did so many people like to practice in the beautiful mountains and forests, but make slow progress in the urban forest composed of steel and concrete? Even the Wen family, who had the art of stealing heaven, built their headquarters in the secret realm of the Wen family, which was rarely visited by people. As a martial arts museum, Qin Guang had felt the more straightforward yin and yang qi in the realm of true martial arts. After he came out of the realm of true martial arts, he generally classified it as essence of the spirit. However, this essence of the spirit was not the essence of the Xianxia stories, but referred to the spirit of outstanding people, the spirit of heaven and earth, and the spirit of all things. One spirit gave birth to Tai Chi gave birth to yin and yang gave birth to the 4 phases, and the 4 phases gave birth to the 8 trigrams, and so on. According to Qin Guang's understanding, essence of the spirit was all-encompassing and covered a wide range of things. It could be the inner strength accumulated in the body when a martial artist practiced inner strength, or it could be the fresh air that ordinary people breathed in to strengthen their bodies. At this moment, the air that Qin Guang was smelling was hidden under all kinds of smells, but it was a wisp of essence of the spirit. He had occasionally felt it before, but he had never understood it as clearly as he did now. This meant that the concentration of essence of the spirit had increased at least twice as much as before. As for the glow in the water droplets on his fingertips, it belonged to another kind of power, a higher level power. It was the power of the Holy Grail released by his heavenly Holy Grail. This power was purer and more original, and even made the supernatural ability of the earth burner in his body more active, as if it was cheering and jumping for joy. Qin Guang did not know what was going on. He did not open any world in the cup, but why did the power of the Holy Grail and the essence of heaven and earth suddenly become more intense? Is it because I am in a hurry to save someone, so I am highly nervous and the heavenly Holy Grail automatically cooperated with me? That's not right. This feeling did not suddenly appear today, but had been lingering ever since he returned from the Baylor Mountain of the Shattered World. Previously, the power of the Holy Grail in this world had always been becoming more intense, and this trend had never stopped. It was only today that the quantitative change finally triggered a qualitative change, crossing a certain boundary. At this moment, Dan and Song and his group of 9 people were escorting Shi Lu, braving the heavy rain and stepping on the mud, moving forward with difficulty. Chapter 984. Brother Bao were 2F** King unlucky. Huzi grumbled as he chopped down the bushes in front of him. Why is it raining so heavily for no reason? Bao and Song glared at him. Isn't this your fault? Didn't you say that you know the situation in the mountains like the back of your hand? Didn't you feel anything when it rained so heavily? Huzi scratched his head. Speaking of which, it's strange. Usually when my dad and I go hunting in the mountains, we can smell the moisture in the air with just a twitch of our noses. We can tell if it's going to rain or how heavy it will be. But today when we got out of the car and ran, I smelled it. There were almost no clouds in the sky and there were no signs of rain. Look, there aren't any clouds yet. This weather is too weird. Stop talking nonsense and lead the way. Brother Bao, why don't we think of a way to go back? The rain can wash away the footprints we left earlier, and the police dogs don't like our smell. This is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. The road has become more difficult to walk. Based on the current situation, we might not be able to reach Moji town in another 10 hours. I'm not afraid, but I'm afraid that you guys and this woman won't be able to hold on. Huzi pointed to Shi Lu, who was surrounded by the crowd. She was limping and her face was covered in rain and mud. She looked extremely pathetic. When it rains, it pours. Shi Lu's luck index today was as high as 10,000 points. When she was walking just now, she accidentally slipped and fell and her ankle might have been sprained. Now, not to mention suddenly running away, it took all her strength just to stand. Bao and Song looked at Shi Lu impatiently. Jiang Yage, hurry up. Don't dilly-dally or I'll shoot you and let you feed the wolves here, believe it or not. Shi Lu trembled. She knew that she had been made a scapegoat, but she didn't expose her identity. Instead, she gritted her teeth without saying a word and forced herself to keep up with Huzi's pace. She lowered her head and didn't make a sound. Huzi turned back and said, Brother Bao, don't make such jokes when we're in the mountains. What joke? Don't talk about wolves. Although the most ferocious beasts in this mountain are bears and tigers, the biggest threat to humans is the wolf pack. They form groups and attack from the front and back, unlike lone bears. Some wolves aren't even afraid of gunshots when their ferocious nature kicks in. Dan and Song curled his lips nonchalantly. I'm just saying. I won't really come. Sai, if you believe it, it won't work if you don't believe it. When we're in the mountains, we have to be careful with our words. Alright, I won't say anything. Do we continue forward or go back? Tiger asked again. Wang and Song hesitated for a moment, then took out his phone. He thought that if he walked further in, his phone would probably lose signal. Should he call his father and ask what the situation was like outside? If he scolded her, she would just beg for mercy. If he scolded her too harshly and she didn't listen, she would just hang up and turn off her phone. Let me ask about my dad first. Saying so, Wang and Song turned on his phone. Before he could unlock it, the caller ID lit up. It was Ma Song, the captain of Tong Yuan's bodyguards. Perhaps he had been calling non-stop for the past hour. Picking up the call, Ma Song's voice came through. Boss. It's connected. Master Wang has turned on his phone. Give me the phone. This was Wang Fatai's voice. Hearing his father's tone, Wang and Song subconsciously wanted to beg for mercy again. Dad. Wang Fatai interrupted Wang and Song. You little rascal. Do you know how big of a disaster you've gotten yourself into? Wang and Song was a little indignant. It's not a big deal. I just kidnapped a female celebrity. It's not like I haven't done it before. You still have the cheek to say it. Why can't I say it? Dad, don't worry. I know the psychology of these celebrities very well. As long as I don't break her arms or legs, she won't be able to make a fart if she still wants to earn money in the future. Don't be fooled by how innocent they pretend to be in front of others. God knows how many masters they have to serve in a year. For people like them, no matter how much I torture them, they won't make a fuss. Otherwise, their reputation will be in tatters. I'll record a video of her later. She's even more afraid than I am. Bullsh *. Moneybag was about to go crazy from anger. What kind of situation was this? His stupid son was still saying such reckless words. He remembered what county magistrate who had told him just now. Although he still didn't know Jiang Ye's identity, it was impossible for the two top military and political leaders of Kainan province to call him at the same time. If county magistrate who could say that if she lost a hair, he, as the county magistrate, would have to run away, and if Jiang Ye lost a hair, he would have to shoot Peng and Song, then her background must be beyond his imagination. Dad, don't be like this. If you only know how to scold me, I'll switch off my phone again. Wait. Hearing that his unlucky and stupid son was going to switch off his phone again, Wang Fatai was afraid of him. His tone became gentler. Son, listen to me. Wang and Song's heart skipped a beat when he heard that Wang Fatai's tone had become unprecedentedly gentle. An inexplicable sense of danger rose in his heart, and he could no longer be tough. Instead, he felt a little flustered. Dad, what happened? Wang Fatai's tone became gentler. It's all my fault. I spoiled you too much, and that's why you developed such a personality. I used to think that it was all your mother's fault, but now that I think about it, I'm no better. Dad, don't interrupt me. Listen, time is of the essence, so I'll make it short. Run away now and don't come back. The further the better. Is it that serious? I'm not joking with you. Jiang Ye has a powerful background. Even if you return her unharmed, I'm afraid things won't end well. According to some people, you have to be killed on the spot for the rest of us to survive. I'm already prepared to run away. Don't look back either. The further the better. County head who had misjudged Wang Fatai. All along, Wang Fatai had always been decisive and strict with Wang and Song in the eyes of outsiders. As a result, County head Hu and the others felt that he didn't have much affection for his good-for-nothing son. That was why County head Hu had blurted out that he wanted to kill Wang and Song in advance. He had even hoped that Wang Fatai would have some way to contact Wang and Song and calm him down before taking action himself. But Wang Fatai would never eat his cubs. All along he was the one who was most protective of his cubs. His wife was just a way for him to save face. No matter how much he tried to push the blame onto his wife, if it wasn't for him, the head of the household who had turned a blind eye to it and helped Bang and Song clean up his mess every time, how could he have raised such a foolish son who didn't care about the consequences? Oh, all right. Wang and Song looked at Shilu's back view. The smugness and desire in his heart had mostly dissipated. Perhaps it was because of the cold rain on his head, or perhaps it was because he was frightened by Wang Fatai's words. Wait. Wang Fatai suddenly said. What's wrong? Wait a moment. The armed police and the county's police should be entering the mountains soon. I've asked around and they have police dogs with them. You might not be able to escape. What? Then what should I do? Tell me your current location. I'll bring some people to meet up with you. If they really catch up, we will fight them for a while. But what? But the real scary thing isn't the police. It's Qin Guang. Wonk, you've watched wuxia dramas before, right? Qin Guang is the kind of hero in the dramas who kills a person every 10 steps and leaves no trace behind. You must be wary of him. Don't think that you'll be safe just because you have a gun. That's impossible, right? Look at the situation now. Do you think I'm joking with you? I'm going to risk my life to fight someone for you. Stop talking nonsense. Tell me your location. Wonk Fatai, who was sitting in the Bentley, gritted his teeth. He thought of the big guns in his trunk and decided to go all out. Wonk and Song hurriedly called Tiger over and told him their current location, as well as the approximate route they had chosen at the last minute. The father and son hung up the phone. Ma Song, who was sitting beside Wonk Fatai, asked doubtfully, "Boss, are we really going to do this?" Wonk Fatai stared at him fiercely. "What else can we do? Watch my son die in front of you? I still have a lot of assets overseas. As long as we escape, as long as there's life, we won't have to worry about young Chai. Otherwise, even if we really shoot Wonk down, I'm afraid we'll still be hunted down later. If Hu Jintao wants to escape, then even Master won't be able to protect us tomorrow. We have to rely on ourselves." "Brother Bun, what did your dad say?" Tiger quickly asked Wonk and Song. Wonk and Song gritted his teeth. "What else can we do? Run. We can't go back to Baishi County now. If we go back, we'll really die. We've stirred up a hornet's nest." "That's right, that woman is a hornet's nest." He pointed at Shilu's back and said, "Just follow the route you told my dad just now. He'll be waiting for us in the car with his men. We won't go to Moji Town. How long do you think it'll take for us to reach the mountain road?" 3 hours if we're fast, for if we're slow. That's fine. As long as we meet up with my dad before they catch up, we'll be able to escape. Don't stop. Hurry up. Stupid woman, you better hurry up too. I'm dead because of you this time. You have such a powerful background, why are you hiding it? If you had told me earlier, would I have attacked you? It's all your fault that we ended up like this." Wonk and Song took 2 steps forward and wanted to lift his leg to kick Shilu. Unexpectedly, Shilu quickened her pace and took a step forward, causing him to kick the air. The rain and wind caused the temperature to drop exceptionally low. After walking for a long time, the pain in her ankle was so numb that she couldn't feel it. A strong desire to live supported every inch of space in her mind. Shilu's steps became firmer and faster, and she was just barely able to keep up with the others. Her determination temporarily saved her life. Since she had already decided to escape, once she showed any signs of not being able to keep up, dragging the others down, or showing signs of wanting to escape, Wonk and Song would shoot her without hesitation. Chapter 985. What county magistrate who did not know was that his momentary lapse in secrecy had allowed Fortune Bringer to take the risk to protect Tong and Song. Big Beard Deng would not have expected that his decision to conceal the hostage's identity would not only fail to help Shilu, but also put her in danger. If county magistrate who knew that the hostage was not Jiang Yage, he would not have had the idea of killing Tong and Song, and would have communicated with Fortune Bringer about the matter. As long as Tong and Song was sure that Shilu had not suffered any substantial injuries, he could easily persuade Tong and Song to return her to the rightful owner. After that, he could kowtow and beg for mercy and pay compensation. He could turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. As long as Tong and Song was fine, there was room for discussion. Of course, Qin Guang was also the reason why Fortune Bringer made up his mind. After all, he had seen how martial artists killed without saying a word. Since Qin Guang had stood up for Jiang Yage at the wine table yesterday, it meant that Jiang Yage had a special place in his heart. Apart from Jiang Yage's background, as long as a woman touched a martial artist, there was only one word in his dictionary: death. In short, as long as he wanted to protect Tong and Song's life, he had no choice as a father. "How did you find the direction just now?" Jiang Yage was still lying on Qin Guang's back, the wind blowing on her face. She could not help but ask curiously. Qin Guang's heart was heavy, but he joked with Jiang Yage. "Didn't you listen to my chant? This is a very advanced martial art that I've cultivated. It's similar to thousand-mile sound transmission, and it stimulates the guidance of spiritual energy to find the spiritual energy left behind by that group of people when they passed by. It's all kinds of emotions such as fear and nervousness. It's also mentioned in approaching science, When a person's brain is in a state of thought and emotional fluctuation, it will release brain waves. This kind of brain wave will affect the things around him. It's very weak, but it can leave traces. I can see it. Old Master Guang was getting more and more familiar with swindling people, and he could easily make up lies. Swindling, continue swindling. What kind of damned incantation is that? Mother Earth is tricking me. May the holy light guide me. You think I've never played World of Warcraft before? You put the druid and the paladin together. Jiang Yage saw through Qin Guang's scheme. Old Master Guang felt extremely awkward. How could he not be slippery when he often walked by the river? He had used too many tricks, but he didn't expect to meet someone who knew the ropes and exposed him on the spot. I made up the incantation, but I can't explain it to you. What's important isn't the incantation I recited, but my thoughts at the time. Sincerity brings results, okay? Forget it. Anyway, it's not the first day I've known you. You're always talking big. Alright, how long will it take to catch up? 10 minutes at most. Qin Guang said resolutely. In a sense, he wasn't bluffing Jiang Yage. What he said was true. Previously, when he sensed that the power of the Holy Grail in this world had become exceptionally rich, his Earth Exploder's special ability had become extremely active. This was because the Holy Grail's power, which could replace the origin energy, was constantly being converted into abundant elemental energy. Although it couldn't be compared to the soul world that he was in during the second punishment world, it was enough to support the absorption of the Earth Exploder's special ability and recover a portion of its power. Of course, ever since the end of the second punishment world, Qin Guang's Earth Exploder ability had been slowly recovering. When he killed Ouyang Tianxing, he had devoured the remaining power of the Broken World Holy Tribe, which was a huge supplement. Until now, thanks to the continuous invisible strengthening of the Holy Grail's power, his Earth Exploder ability had finally crossed a threshold. The most typical example was that he could finally try to communicate with the elemental energy of the outside world. Just now, in order to find a way to continue tracking them, he had racked his brains. First, he tried to communicate with the heaven and earth chi as a martial sage, which was the intuition of a martial artist. He then tried to use the earth-based special ability to communicate with the elemental energy. Both methods had some effect, but the answer he got was not certain. Suddenly, he had an idea and simply merged the two abilities together. While circulating his inner strength, he also tried to mobilize the special ability of the Earth Exploder. After a short attempt, he actually found the feeling. The guidance of the earth element became clearer, as though there was someone standing in front of him, constantly telling him, "Here. Here. Same here." In order to avoid having to explain the principles to Jiang Yage, he casually made up a heart sutra to muddle through. He did not expect to go for wool and come home shorn. However, this was not important. What was important was that he would soon be able to find the people and save Shilu. 5 minutes later, Qin Guang finally completely passed through the section of the road where the footprints of Wound Song and the rest had been washed away by the rain. This was the place where they had passed when it started raining. From there, the soil became muddy and their footprints became clear. At that moment, Qin Guang also discovered a new problem. There is an extra pair of footprints. What happened? The shoes are small. It should be that Shilu was put down for a period of time and walked on her own. Then why didn't she escape? This dark forest is easy to escape from. This is deep in the forest and there might be ferocious beasts around. She is a girl and did not bring any survival tools with her. She also has no way to communicate with the outside world. Even if she escaped, she might not survive. Of course, it is more likely that Wound Song and the rest have guns in their hands and she can't escape. The two of them chased for a distance before Qin Guang said, "Shilu twisted her ankle here. She is injured." These be asterisk stars. Qin Guang comforted her. "Don't worry, it will be over soon. There's good news. At least it means that Shilu has not suffered any major losses. They are also panicking when they escape and have no time to do anything to Shilu." Jiang Yage nodded. "I hope so." Further ahead, Wound Song's group of 9 and Shilu, who were supposed to be escaping in a panic, stopped in their tracks and looked ahead with a face full of fear. Dark green lights were slowly rising from the dense forest in front of them like fireflies. These firefly lights were in pairs and most of them were less than half a meter from the ground. A low, hoarse groan came from all directions, accompanied by the sound of rustling. The heavy rain was still pouring, but it could not cover up these strange sounds. The starlight and moonlight were still shining brightly in the sky, but it made everyone feel even more fearful in the shadows. The green lights were getting denser and denser. They were in all four directions of the dense forest. Wuxia took out his saber from his waist. His teeth were chattering. Brother Bao wolf pack. What a huge wolf pack. He would never forget the story his father told him. Never run around in this forest in the middle of the night, because you would never know when the wild wolves would quietly surround you. They were 100 times scarier than lone bears, tigers and wild boars. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, they all died in the hands of the wolf pack. Wuxia licked his lips. Dad, you forgot to mention one person. That's yourself. Am I coming too now? Such a huge wolf pack was beyond his knowledge. Xilu instinctively wanted to hide in the middle of the crowd. She was so nervous that her legs were trembling and she had no strength left in her. Everyone stand up straight. We cannot fall. We must not fall. The wolves are more cunning than you think. They have quietly surrounded us. They haven't attacked us yet because we seem to be in good spirits. However, once someone falls down, they will think that we are weak. They will rush up and bite us to death without hesitation. I have never seen such a huge wolf pack. There are at least 70 to 80 of them. There might be more lurking around the perimeter. There are hundreds of them. There must be an extremely powerful wolf king in this pack. The intelligence and strength of such a wolf king is at least a few times that of a normal alpha wolf. Wuxia shouted loudly, trying his best to make his voice sound powerful. He was bluffing. Xilu pinched her thighs tightly. 2 streams of tears mixed with the rainwater flowed down to the ground. There were too many wolves. Am I going to die here in the end? Wuxia, what should we do now? Nan and Song clenched the gun in his hand tightly. His breathing was as heavy as a bellow. He would never have thought that his casual joke would become a prophecy. Although he was not a hunter, as a native of Whitewater River County, he knew how terrifying a pack of hundreds of wolves was. Wuxia's eyes turned rapidly. He frantically searched his mind for the survival method taught by his ancestors. His eyes looked around frantically. It was impossible to rush out. There was only one way. That was to climb up the tree and wait for others to bring heavy firepower to rescue them. His eyes drifted to a foot-thick tree about 4 to 5 meters away from the group. This was a dense forest. There were many trees around them that they could climb. The tree that Wuxia had chosen was rather large. It was not the closest one, but because of its special branches, it was the easiest to climb. The rainwater had made the tree somewhat slippery. But with the hook at his waist, he should be able to climb up. If he moved faster, he could probably pull Brother Miao up as well. As for the others, the 8 immortals crossed the sea and each displayed their own abilities. Everyone prayed for their own luck. After all, as long as Brother Miao's life was preserved, his father would definitely come to rescue him. However, they couldn't act rashly now. Once they showed any signs of escaping, the cunning wolves would definitely pounce on them in an instant. At that time, shooting would be of no use. Blood would only stimulate the wolf's ferocious nature. As long as the Wolf King did not die, it would not care about the lives of the weak wolves in the vanguard. It would only command the other wolves to attack like waves. Brother Miao, I have an idea. Say it. Nan and Song was burning with anxiety. Wuxia pointed to Xilu, who was in the middle of the group. Let her take a stick and go to the front. We'll take the opportunity to climb up the tree. Xilu finally broke down. No. Nan and Song did not listen to her explanation. He turned and pointed the gun at her. You choose. Either you run forward with all your might. You might be able to escape, or I'll shoot you dead. Wuxia admired Nan and Song's decisiveness. He thought that if it were him, he would really be reluctant to sacrifice such a delicate superstar. What a pity. But it was fine. Her flesh was more tender and the wolves liked it more. Xilu faced the gun and looked at Nan and Song's ferocious expression. Give her a stick. Nan and Song pouted and said, I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Either you run out yourself or I'll shoot you dead and throw your corpse out. To me, the effect is the same. Wuxia secretly gestured to Nan and Song. Nan and Song and Wuxia understood each other. In fact, that was what he had planned to do. When Jiang Yage ran a few steps forward and was about to reach the wolves, he would shoot her from behind. At that time, the blood splashing from her body would definitely attract all the attention of the wolves in a short time. Xilu knew that she had no other choice. She took the metal stick from a man and held it tightly in her hand. He wanted to live, not die. Taking a deep breath, she yelled crazily and waved her iron rod. She staggered and rushed towards the wolf step by step. But. Sure enough, the wolf's attention was attracted to her. The howling became louder and the green glow under the night sky became lower. Wuxia saw the opportunity and gave Nan and Song a look. He then shouted in a low voice, "Brothers, quickly think of a way to climb up the tree. These trees are very old and there are many scars on them. Just dig and you'll be able to climb up. It's very easy to climb." Without caring about the others, Wuxia turned and quickly ran towards the tree he had chosen earlier. Nan and Song followed closely while the others pounced on the nearest tree. They didn't care about the size of the tree. They grabbed a tree and tried to climb up. Wuxia took out a metal hook from his waist and held it in his hands. He used each hand to hit the tree trunk and climbed up. "Don't worry, brother Nan. I'll pull you up when I get up." Wuxia lowered his voice and said to Nan and Song behind him. Nan and Song nodded. He turned around and aimed the flashlight and muzzle at Xilu's figure. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I understand. Hurry up." Xilu's heart beat faster and faster. The wolves in front of her became clearer under the dim moonlight. There seemed to be someone shining a flashlight in their direction. These wolves had grayish-black fur, white fangs, sharp claws and cold eyes. Their tails were pointed towards the ground. The fur on their tails was straight like steel needles even under the beating of the rain. They were getting closer and closer. "I'm going to die. I can't take this lying down." Xilu shouted even louder. Her thin and slender hands exploded with unprecedented strength. She waved the metal rod in her hands so hard that it was even louder than the sound of the rain, wind, and the wolves' howls. Oh, a loud howl came from the back of the pack of wolves. This was the Wolf King blowing the horn to attack. The wolves immediately responded in unison. Their ear-piercing howls pierced through the air. The wolves in front of Xilu were the fastest. They first lowered their bodies slightly, then exerted force with their hind legs and sprang forward. Nan and Song used his left ring and middle fingers to hold the flashlight. His left index finger supported the bottom of his right wrist. His right hand had never been so steady. The black muzzle was aimed at Xilu's back. There was only a crazed light in his eyes. He slowly increased the strength of his right index finger. Definitely. He had to hit her in one shot. Chapter 986. Bang. The bullet pierced through the air and went straight for the back of Xilu's head. Xilu did not know anything. She was swinging the metal rod in her hand at the wolf in front of her. She was still dreaming of beating the wolf to death and then running away. She believed that humans had potential. In a desperate situation they could explode with strength that surpassed the limits of humans. Unfortunately, she was just a mortal and her potential was limited. She did not know that there was a fatal bullet flying towards the back of her head. The speed of a bullet from a handgun was about the speed of sound. She would probably be dead the moment she heard the gunshot. As for Wan and Song, he did not look at Xilu's situation after shooting. Instead he turned around and took the rope that Wuxia threw down from the tree. He held onto it tightly and arched his back, preparing to climb up the tree. The feel of this shot was too good. It made him very confident. He was glad that he did not waste his time when he had the chance to practice shooting in the past. He thought that he was quite talented in this. Poof. At this moment, a muffled sound came from Xilu's direction. Wan and Song thought that Jiang Yage was probably dead. He then turned to look at Xilu's direction. The next moment he was stunned. Xilu was still standing there, but she had already turned her head. Even though the night was dim, Wan and Song could tell that her head had not exploded. She was indeed looking back at him. What was going on? What was going on? Why wasn't she dead? Did I miss? That was impossible. The wolf pack was still pouncing towards Xilu. They bared their teeth and were unusually fierce. But the strange thing was that every time these wolves got close to Xilu, they would howl and fly backwards without warning. It was as if something had hit them on the head or as if they had hit an invisible wall. What the hell? Wan and Song was so shocked that he even forgot to climb up the tree. The wolf pack was also ferocious. The harder it was to bite Xilu, the more they pounced on her. Even the wolves that were originally pouncing towards Wan and Song and the others changed their direction and went straight for Xilu. The angry howls of the Wolf King did not stop. It was probably the Wolf King secretly commanding the pack of wolves. "Brother Wan, hurry up," Wuxia urged from the tree. Nong and Song looked around and realized that the pack of wolves pouncing from behind had gone straight for Zhang Yage. His heart calmed down a little. Wait, I must kill her. Brother Bao, what time is this? It's better for her to live longer. Come up quickly. Huzi urged him again. At this time the other people who were unable to climb up the tree due to the slippery trunk also reacted, and one by one they told Wang Tsong not to shoot. Nan and Song unwillingly put away his gun and turned around to climb up the tree. At this moment, a tall figure came from afar in the wind and stopped in front of Zhang Yage. The figure was so fast that the strong wind and rainwater that he brought with him hit Nong and Song's body, causing his body to tilt subconsciously. He leaned against the tree trunk to barely stand up. Nong and Song's pupils constricted and he forgot to climb up the tree. He swung his hand and aimed the flashlight in the direction of the black shadow. Qin Guang. In the distance, Qin Guang was standing with his hands behind his back. On his back, a girl was quickly sliding down. Then Nong and Song saw the girl's face clearly from afar. It was Zhang Yage. What was going on? There were two Zhang Yages. But very quickly his attention was attracted by Qin Guang. Compared to the strange situation of two Zhang Yages, the current Qin Guang was even more terrifying. At this moment, this hero of the pugilistic world, who his father said killed a person every 10 steps and left no trace for 1,000 miles, was looking at him indifferently with a pair of extremely cold eyes. From the other party's eyes, Nong and Song seemed to read an emotion. He wasn't looking at a person but a corpse. Unknowingly, Nong and Song's hair stood on end. An unprecedented sense of danger arose in his heart, as if he would be beheaded in the next moment. The pack of wolves was still madly pouncing in the direction of the three people. But no matter how fiercely they pounced, they hit an invisible wall and couldn't move an inch. The rain above the three of them was splashing in the air, forming a semicircular cover that slowly flowed down. This semicircular cover was the barrier that blocked the advance of the pack of wolves. Brother Nong. Hurry up. Sitting on the tree with his back facing Shilu, Huzi didn't know what was happening. He was still desperately urging Nong and Song to pull him up. The others, regardless of whether they were on the tree or not, were all staring blankly in the direction of Qin Guang. Only then did Huzi realize something was wrong. He turned his head and then froze on the tree, forgetting to continue pulling the rope. My God. Nong and Song finally broke free from his fear. He raised his hand and gun and shouted hysterically, "Kill him! Kill him!" Bang bang bang. He aimed his gun in the direction of Qin Guang and pulled the trigger crazily. The other two people also took out their guns from their pockets and fired in the direction of Qin Guang. But something that made them feel despair happened. In the distance, Qin Guang still had his left hand behind his back, but he stretched out his right hand with his palm facing forward and his 5 fingers spread out. A silent but visible vibration was emitted from his palm, causing the water that was slowly flowing down the wall to scatter in all directions. Under the light of the flashlight, the water droplets that were blown away were crystal clear and extremely alluring. But under this different kind of beauty, there was a scene that made people despair. All the bullets that were shot by the 3 pistols, other than the ones that flew off, were all shot in the right direction. It was as if they had shot into a transparent quagmire, quietly floating in the air in front of Qin Guang's 5 fingers. The scattered bullets seemed to be embedded in the invisible air barrier in front of Qin Guang. Click, click sounds came one after another. He didn't know when, but the gun in Nong Tsong's hand had already fired all the bullets. The gun barrel was burning hot, but his heart was piercingly cold. Similar sounds came from the direction of the other 2 gunmen. There were no more bullets. Unfortunately, their crazy shooting had no effect. Qin Guang was still in the same posture with his right hand in front of him, but the bullets floating in front of him had become more numerous. Rainwater continued to pour down from above the dense forest, hitting the circular energy cover before flowing down. When it passed by the bullet floating in the air, it was sliced to the sides, but then flowed through the middle of the bullet in an extremely orderly circular arc. Time seemed to have completely stopped at this moment. Even Zhang Yage, who was standing behind Qin Guang, and Shilu, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground and turned her head to look in this direction, were completely stunned. There was no sound between heaven and earth. Not even the rain dared to come close. Perhaps only the wolf pack, who didn't know what was happening, was still madly attacking in vain. Nong Tsong unknowingly dropped the gun in his hand and knelt on the ground. "I beg you, don't kill me. I know I was wrong. I beg you. He finally completely believed what his father had said. There really were heroes in this world. In a sense, the power that Qin Guang had displayed was even more terrifying than the heroes in television dramas. It was almost like immortal arts and evil arts. He finally understood why the first Jiang Yage didn't die after the first shot. It must have been because he shot a drop of water from afar that caused the bullet to deviate. Why was I so stupid? How could I dare to provoke such a person? He knelt on the ground and hammered his head into the mud in front of him again and again. The others weren't much better. They all followed Nong Tsong's actions and knelt on the ground, kowtowing crazily. Even the wolf pack, which had never stopped attacking, was forgotten by these people. Qin Guang's attention wasn't on them. He just waved his hand impatiently. Beg for mercy? It's too late. He flicked the fingers of his right hand as if he was shooing away flies. The bullets floating in front of him instantly turned around and flew backward, even faster than when he fired the gun. The effect of fusing the dart technique with the release of inner strength was unexpectedly good. It was accurate, fast and ruthless, and it even had the range effect of multiple shots. 9 consecutive sounds of flesh being pierced were heard, and a bloody hole suddenly appeared between the eyebrows of Dan and Song, Hu Zi and the others. Then they didn't even have the time to scream before they silently fell to the ground. Those who had already climbed up the tree fell with their heads up and fell to the ground like a piece of torn cloth. There was no more sound. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu both covered their mouths. The two girls didn't expect Qin Guang to kill them so decisively. Alright, stop daydreaming here. It's not over yet. It's just a few bastards that died, it's not worth mentioning. Qin Guang turned around and waved his hand casually. As Jiang Yage helped Shi Lu up, she asked in confusion, "Aren't these wolves unable to pounce on us? What's there to be afraid of?" Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "You think it's easy for me? Inner strength is free. Cabbages. These wolves aren't simple." As Qin Guang spoke, he pulled the two behind him and looked around with a serious expression. Jiang Yage muttered to herself, "What's so strange about it? Aren't they just wild huskies?" Of course, she only thought about it in her heart. She wouldn't say it out loud. Shi Lu clenched her fists and curled up behind Qin Guang. Her heart was pounding. Just now, when she was about to swing the stick at the wild wolf in front of her, she heard a poof at the back of her head. Then a gust of wind brushed past her face. Something flew past her ear and cut off a chunk of her hair. Almost at the same time, she heard a gunshot and knew that Wang and Song had shot at her. But at this moment she still didn't know why the bullets missed. Just as she turned back to look at Nong and Song, under the illumination of Nong and Song's flashlight, she saw with her own eyes 2 water droplets shooting from the side behind her, hitting the heads of the wolves that were pouncing over and sending these terrifying beasts flying. Only then did she understand that someone had used the water droplets to help her block the bullets. Then Qin Guang carried Jiang Yage on his back and descended from the sky. Then Jiang Yage came down from his back. Jiang Yage had just landed on the ground when gunshots rang out again. This time they came from more than one direction. At that time Shi Lu thought that the 3 of them were going to die. But Qin Guang, who was standing at the front, just opened his hands and the bullets stopped abruptly in front of them. Before she could react to what was going on, the bullets flew out again. Wang and Song and the others, who were extremely vicious in her eyes, died on the spot. All of this happened too quickly and didn't give her much time to think. "Shi Lu, don't worry. It's fine. With him here we're very safe. Even if the sky falls, he can hold it up." Jiang Yage, who was supporting Shi Lu, said with a smile. She didn't take the wolves in front of the 3 of them seriously. The Wolf King's howl sounded again, but it wasn't an order to retreat. Instead, it was like a war drum to boost the morale of 2 armies. The wolves that were advancing in waves were getting closer. They didn't show any signs of retreating. Instead, they became even crazier. Under the Wolf King's command, the wolves didn't attack the 9 corpses on the ground. Instead, they continued to surround Qin Guang and the other 2. More and more wolves were densely packed. It was a sight that made one's teeth ache. "Qin Guang, hurry up and kill them." Jiang Yage didn't understand why Qin Guang looked like he was facing a great enemy. Although the wolves were scary to ordinary people, she didn't think that these big dogs could pose a threat to him. However, Qin Guang paid no attention to her and continued to look at the wolves. Actually, before he came closer, he had a faint feeling that something was wrong. If there was really nothing strange about these wolves, when he flicked the water droplets over with his fingers, Even the smallest water droplets should have been able to smash the skulls of these wolves. But the reality was that even though these wolves were sent flying, they rolled on the ground twice and were covered in mud. Then they shook their heads and stood up again. They recovered quickly and continued to attack. Qin Guang focused his attention and kept the internal energy and superpower in his body in a highly active state. He sensed an extremely familiar scent from these wolves. It was elemental energy. It was extremely complicated and not strong. It was much weaker than Ouyang Tianxing's, but it existed objectively. The elemental energy in the world that was transformed from the power of the Holy Grail was too rich. The elemental energy in these wolves was even richer. They had mutated. At this moment Shi Lu, who was supported by Jiang Yage, heard Jiang Yage talk to Qin Guang like that and felt an indescribable sense of envy in her heart. But she knew that it was useless. Jiang Yage and Qin Guang had known each other when they were down and out. They were true friends who had gone through thick and thin. Now that Qin Guang had made a name for himself and changed his identity, the gap between them was too big. If she wanted to be like Jiang Yage and take the initiative to get close to him, even if she had a clear conscience, it would still be inappropriate in the eyes of others and even him. Just the ability that he had displayed now made him like the stars in the sky. Although she was considered beautiful in the eyes of ordinary people, she was ultimately just a mortal on the ground. There was a saying that went, "You can only blame yourself for not being able to meet again." The Wolf King howled again, but it was different from before. This time it was much closer. It seemed like it was not satisfied with hiding behind the pack of wolves and chose to go into battle personally. In the blink of an eye, a giant wolf about 1.5 meters tall and 2 meters long, so large that it did not look like a wolf but more like a tiger, slowly walked out from the path that the pack of wolves had opened up. Under the moonlight and the rain, its silver-white fur glistened and faintly had a metallic luster. This was a rare mutated silver wolf. Unlike other wild wolves that walked around with their teeth bared, this Wolf King only opened its mouth from time to time and revealed its eerie white teeth. Steps were slow but firm. Its front paws were extremely strong and were thicker than a human's thigh. The front paws that were exposed were like sharp daggers that easily cut through the gravel where its paws landed. Even Jiang Yage, who was originally very confident in Qin Guang, held her breath when she saw this Wolf King. She did not dare to rashly disturb Qin Guang. Chapter 987. With the appearance of the Silver Wolf King, the morale of the other wolves was boosted. Previously the wolves were almost exhausted, but now they recovered quite a bit. Following behind the Silver Wolf King, 8 huge wolves that were much taller and stronger than the other wolves appeared. They were only slightly smaller than the Silver Wolf King. These 8 huge wolves looked extraordinary as well, and the colors of their fur were different. Some of the huge wolves were pitch black, but it wasn't the normal kind of black. Instead it seemed to absorb all the light around it. If it wasn't for its green eyes and the white teeth in its open mouth, ordinary people wouldn't even notice the existence of this wolf. There were also other huge wolves that were scarlet, blue or green. They almost took up all the colors of the rainbow. Including the ink black wolf, there were exactly 8 of them. What's going on with these wolves? This time it was Shi Lu's turn to shout out in panic. Qin Guang pulled back his hand and gestured for the 2 of them to come closer to him. "I think I've met my kind." "Your kind?" Jiang Yage asked in confusion. Qin Guang grunted. "Yes, my kind. I can't explain it in such a short time, but all you need to know is that there's something that shouldn't exist in this world." Now that things had come to this, Qin Guang didn't have the energy or time to ask why the power of the heavenly Holy Grail would continue to increase, and why the ordinary wolf packs on Earth would become like this, with their bodies filled with rich elemental powers. The heavenly Holy Grail wasn't in his hands, and Azure wasn't in the mood to take the initiative to talk to him. He had to rely on himself for everything. In any case, he had to slaughter this group of reckless beasts first. Actually, if everyone could calm down and sit down for a proper discussion, Qin Guang might be able to use his special skills as a language master to communicate with a wild animal with high intelligence like the Silver Wolf King. After all, he was also a master of shady transactions. There was nothing in this world that couldn't be shady transactions. If one shady transaction couldn't solve the problem, then he would do it a second time. It was a pity that the other party didn't seem to have any intention of communicating with them. Instead, for some reason he seemed particularly irritable, determined to bite them to death. Strangely enough, unlike other ferocious beasts, the probability of wolves taking the initiative to attack humans was not high, even though they were terrifying. Because of their high intelligence, the wolves knew that humans were different from the other beasts in the mountains and were more dangerous. Although the wolves were ferocious, they were not willing to easily become enemies with humans. Otherwise, the things in the hands of humans would pose a great threat to them. But this time they attacked the humans without any fear of death. Even though Qin Guang had used water droplets as darts to knock them to the ground over and over again, and even though Dan and Song and the rest had fired wildly, they still could not shake the frenzied wolf pack in the slightest. It seemed that not only did the elemental energy make them stronger, it also made them more bloodthirsty and relentless. However, there was also another possibility. The overly powerful Silver Wolf King had inflated its ego. It led the wolves to attack the humans not because they were hungry but because it wanted to test how strong its newly acquired power was. Just as Qin Guang was analyzing the situation in his mind, the Silver Wolf King in front of him had already let out a roar and was the first to charge forward. The Silver Wolf King looked huge, but its movements were extremely fast. It crossed a distance of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye, and in the next moment, it was already in the air with its claws spread open, and it pounced towards Qin Guang from above. From the Silver Wolf King's brief movements, Qin Guang could sense a hint of the earth cutter that he had fought before. However, it did not have the earth element in its body, but an even sharper type of elemental energy which was a little metallic. As the Silver Wolf King led the charge, the other wolves around it also charged forward in unison, as if they were going to launch their final attack. For a moment the wolves surrounded Qin Guang and the others from all directions, with the Silver Wolf King as the leader, the 8 mutated giant wolves as support, and the remaining dozens of wolves as support. An unprecedented amount of elemental energy, something that had never appeared on Earth, charged towards Qin Guang in a frenzy. The Silver Wolf King was still flying in the air when it suddenly opened its mouth, and a silver ray of light shot out from its tongue, piercing through the air towards the space between Qin Guang's eyebrows. The other 8 mutated giant wolves also unleashed their own abilities. The shadow wolf that was as black as ink spat out a ball of black mist from its mouth. It seemed to be moving slowly, but it was actually flying towards Qin Guang at an extremely fast speed, devouring the light along the way. It was actually the rare power of darkness. The giant green wolf clawed at the ground with its claws, and 2 rays of green light filled with the power of the wind element flew out in a crisscrossed manner. The giant blue wolf's fur stood on end, and it did a somersault in the air, turning its back towards Qin Guang. The fur on its body instantly froze and countless ice needles shot out from its back like lightning. It looked like a porcupine launching an attack, but its power was many times greater. The giant red wolf was of the fire element and it opened its mouth to spit out a fireball. The fireball grew in the heavy rain, illuminating the surroundings as it swept towards Tang Wulin. The 8 mutated giant wolves each had their own unique characteristics, but none of them were to be underestimated. As for the other wolves, although they were not as strong as the Silver Wolf King and the mutated giant wolves, many of them also displayed special abilities brought about by the power of the elements. For example, their fangs grew longer, or their claws emitted sparks, or their bodies suddenly expanded, becoming exceptionally large. If not for the fact that they were in a life-and-death situation, the 2 girls, Jiang Yage and Shilu, would have been dazzled by the dazzling attacks in front of them. At this moment, the 2 girls did not know what they could do, nor did they know what kind of situation they were facing. If not for the fact that it was happening right in front of their eyes, the 2 of them would have thought that they were filming a Hollywood fantasy movie. As actors, the 2 of them had acted in all kinds of strange things in movies. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long since fainted. Even so, they could only hold their breaths and stare blankly at the broad back of the man in front of them, pinning all their hopes on Qin Guang. Faced with the oncoming attack of the wolf pack, Qin Guang, who was previously extremely fearful, felt much more relaxed. Fortunately, these wild beasts were only enjoying the leftovers brought about by the power of the Holy Grail. To an ordinary person, they might be so powerful that they were almost undefeatable, but in front of a high-level elemental creature like him, the Earth Popper, their abilities were not enough. "You lowly beast. You want to use me as a touchstone for your special abilities? I'm sorry, but you found the wrong target. All of you have to kneel and call me grandfather." Qin Guang laughed coldly and suddenly spread his arms. The strength of the martial sage realm burst forth from his left hand, while the special ability of the Earth Popper spread out from his right. The two equally powerful forces instantly intertwined in the middle of his hands, and in the next instant, they turned into a pillar that replenished the invisible barrier in front of him. The silver light spat out by the Silver Wolf King was the first to collide with the barrier. With a crisp sound, the silver light only managed to break through the barrier for a short while before it was completely destroyed by the special ability of the Earth Popper, which was many realms higher than it, and returned to its most basic elemental energy. The attacks of the other 8 mutated giant wolves seemed terrifying, but in reality they were not much better. They were all blocked outside. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu were both inside the colorful circular barrier. Even though they knew that they were not out of danger yet, the two of them were still completely immersed in the incomparably dazzling brilliance. It was natural for girls to love beauty. At this moment Shi Lu had escaped from death, and the tension in her heart had greatly eased. With Jiang Yage's consolation, she firmly believed in Qin Guang's strength. Jiang Yage was even more blind, believing that as long as he said it he would definitely be able to do it. At this moment the two of them were nervous but not nervous. Amidst their fear, there was also a sense of steadfastness and determination. They could not control their emotions at all, and subconsciously immersed themselves in the magnificent brilliance before them. However, the two of them were pulled back to reality in the blink of an eye. This was because the ordinary wolves had already pounced on the barrier. Their wide-open bloody mouths seemed to be within reach, and the saliva dripping from their sharp fangs looked disgusting and terrifying. The two girls subconsciously hugged each other tightly and screamed involuntarily. However, the wolf pack's attack was futile. Unlike the previous attacks that were only blocked and bounced off, the invisible barrier that was once again fused with an even more powerful inner force and earth elemental energy wrapped around these reckless wolves. It was as if they had flown into a quagmire in a swamp, and then ruthlessly tore them apart like a meat grinder. Boiling red blood splattered all over the sky. Bits of flesh and white bones mixed with broken fangs flew in all directions. This scene was bloody yet bewitchingly beautiful. Upon seeing this, the originally arrogant Silver Wolf King let out a blood-curdling cry. Its body abruptly stopped in midair as if defying gravity. It twisted its body in a strange manner in midair, and turned around in an attempt to escape. Accompanying the Silver Wolf King's blood-curdling cry, which also sounded like an order to retreat, the remaining 70 to 80 wolves also turned around and ran, scattering in all directions. With the heavenly Holy Grail in his hand, as the world's most powerful martial artist, as well as the ultimate elemental form of the Earth Marmalade Exploder Qin Guang, who could be mentioned in the same breath as a god emperor, how could he lose to these mutated beasts that had eaten his leftovers? Beasts were still beasts after all. If they really had the intelligence of humans, they would have known from the beginning that they were no match for Qin Guang. By the time they finally realized that they had found the wrong opponent, it was already too late. Qin Guang's eyes were bloodshot. Since he had run into these mutated beasts, he could not let even one of them escape. Otherwise, if ordinary people ran into them, even an armed army might not be able to deal with them. Trying to run? No way. Qin Guang stomped his right foot heavily on the ground. With him as the center, a loud rumbling sound came from the ground 100 meters away. In an instant, an earthen wall about 15 feet tall rose out of thin air. At first glance, these earthen walls did not look like anything special, but upon closer inspection, they looked like countless intertwining quicksand. Chapter 988. The wild wolves that were on the periphery were the first to collide with the wall. These beasts did not know how powerful the wall was and only tried to scratch with their claws. However, as soon as their claws reached in, they were instantly wrapped up by the quicksand on the surface of the wall, unable to escape. Qin Guang snorted coldly. He spread open the fingers of his right hand and clenched his fist. Sand-binding coffin. Following his shout, the wild wolves that were caught in the quicksand wall all screamed and exploded in the sand, as if they had been crushed by a giant's fist. You're running your mouth again. You think I haven't seen Naruto before? Jiang Yage, who had calmed down again, immediately exposed this guy who was too lazy to give a name to his ultimate move. Although she did not know how he did it, nor did she understand what kind of ability it was, Jiang Yage subconsciously understood that this was definitely not something that could be explained by a simple inner force martial artist. However, this was not important at all. He was Qin Guang anyway. Even if he could open his mouth and swallow the sun into his stomach, there was no need to make a fuss about it. The remaining wolves knew that they were powerful and immediately stopped in front of the quicksand wall. They did not dare to move an inch forward, but the wall was too high for them to jump over. The Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves also rushed to the front of the quicksand wall. These 9 giant wolves were quite capable. The Silver Wolf King's hind legs bounced off the ground and shot up into the sky like a cannonball. At a glance, it seemed like it could directly jump over. The Emerald Wind Wolf King, on the other hand, directly floated up into the air. The khaki-colored giant earth element wolf did not know what was good for it. It dived head-first into the quicksand wall, as if it wanted to turn into soil and pass through the wall. Unfortunately, as soon as its elemental power came into contact with the power of Qin Guang's kind, which was countless times higher, it was instantly suppressed and died on the spot. On the other side, the Silver Wolf King rushed higher and higher. Just as it was about to escape, the quicksand wall suddenly expanded under Qin Guang's secret control. It shot up into the sky, and the top continued to gather above Qin Guang's head. In the blink of an eye, the quicksand wall had become a pot lid, covering the 3 people and the remaining 60 to 70 wolves. This move could also be called closing the door and beating the dog. Qin Guang turned around and shrugged at Jiang Yage and Shi Lu. Why don't you close your eyes later? The next scene is a little bloody and not suitable for children. After saying that, he turned around and walked forward, cracking his knuckles. Despairing, the Silver Wolf King turned around and pounced. This time, Qin Guang did not use his superpower. His Martial Sage Realm Genuine Qi burst out and he used the real Martial Sage unique skill, True Martial Divine Skill. His body was indestructible. He stretched out his hands and grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the Silver Wolf King. His fingers locked onto its teeth and tore them apart. Die! The Silver Wolf King was torn in half. A merciless massacre had officially begun. From start to finish, it took less than a minute. When the wall of quicksand returned to the ground, all that was left was a ground covered in blood and broken wolf corpses. Qin Guang returned to the stunned Jiang Yage and Shi Lu and shrugged. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make it so bloody. Actually, I used my other ability to maintain the wall of quicksand. I don't have much inner force left, so I could only rely on my physical body to solve the problem. I didn't scare you, did I? Jiang Yage and Shi Lu shook their heads in unison against their will. But soon Jiang Yage vomited with an "oh," while Shi Lu burst into tears. She was scared out of her wits. Shi Lu cried for a few minutes until her tears were almost dry. Then she looked around and began to vomit again. Jiang Yage didn't cry, but in a few minutes she vomited all the stuff in her stomach and her bile was almost gone. Qin Guang did not rush them. He stood behind them and patted them on the back. Then he sat down cross-legged on the ground. Anyway, the military police of Baishi County were approaching quickly, so he might as well wait for them here. Of course, it was not because he wanted to wait for someone, but because, although it was easy for him to deal with the wolves, he had used up a lot of his inner force and superpower. Ever since he cultivated the true martial skill and became a martial sage, Qin Guang had not felt empty in his stomach for a long time. Now that he was feeling weak, he was not used to it. Thus he seized the time to meditate. On one hand, he was trying to recover his inner force as soon as possible. On the other hand, after the wolves died, the elemental power in their bodies was slowly released. Although Qin Guang could only absorb the earth elemental power, other than the Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves, the elemental power in the bodies of the other wolves was very heterogeneous. Among the various elemental powers that were released after their deaths, there was more or less some earth element. Even the relatively pure Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves had a lot of impurities in their bodies. Otherwise, their ranks would not be so far apart from Qin Guang. He was the original and only great earth exploder in the endless realm of the gods. Although the name wasn't very elegant, it was actually like the stone monkey that had existed since Pangu created the world, standing proudly above the East Sea, and was born from the 5-colored stone left behind by Nuwa when she patched up the heavens. The Great Earth Exploder was the highest rank of elemental life that had never appeared in the endless realm of the gods. The elemental power in its body was also 100% pure. However, those that were lower than it, such as the Great Earth Chaotic Being, had not reached absolute purity. Perhaps it was 99% and N9s after it. However, no matter how many digits there were after the decimal point, it could only be infinitely close to absolute purity. It could not really cross this critical point. Just like in the real world, whether it was 1,000-foot gold, 10,000-foot gold, or 24K gold, there was no absolute 100% pure gold. Even if there was an impurity of other atoms, it could not be called pure gold. Modern scientists believe that humans are unable to create absolutely pure substances, because molecules and atoms can diffuse. However, this was not the case for Qin Guang. He was absolutely pure and did not contain any impurities. Great Earth Exploder. Now that the entire pack of mutated wolves had been annihilated here, the earth element in the vicinity was particularly rich. It was a rare opportunity to use his special ability. Qin Guang simply took this opportunity to use his special ability to absorb the earth element around him like a whale sucking in water. In short, when the two girls were almost done crying and vomiting, Qin Guang also entered a shallow state of meditation. Although the two girls were scared to death, they did not dare to rashly disturb him when they saw him meditating like an old monk. They did not know what was so special about people who practice martial arts. Wasn't it shown on television that martial arts masters should not be touched when they meditated? They could easily go berserk and they had to balance yin and yang in order to suppress it. Jiang Yage turned her head to look at Shilu and thought to herself, I must not touch him. I must definitely not touch him. Otherwise it would be too terrifying. Someone would definitely die. As for whether it would be one more or one less life, it was not certain. If his output was a little larger, maybe there would be 2 more lives. But I would definitely faint and so would Shilu. When others came over and found this guy in the F***ck, it would really be unimaginable. Unconsciously, Jiang Yage pulled Shilu further and further away, at least maintaining a distance of 5 or 6 meters from Qin Guang. Sister Yarge, we are, Shilu said with a trembling voice. She was a little scared when she was far away from Qin Guang. Jiang Yage patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. All martial arts masters are like him. When they are tired of killing, they have to quickly meditate and chant scriptures to avoid having inner demons in their hearts. Shilu suddenly understood. So hard for him. Jiang Yage rolled her eyes. Hey, what hard work? He's just pretending to chant scriptures. Forget it, let's not disturb him. It's really a little cold. Shilu nodded. Leaving Qin Guang's side, he didn't use his internal energy to block the rain. The two of them had been drenched all the way until now and their bodies were really cold. The two of them sneezed one after another. After a while, the rain in the sky suddenly stopped. The moonlight shone down and sparkled. If it weren't for the muddy ground, no one would have imagined that there would be a downpour in this forest tonight. However, Jiang Yage and Shilu didn't have a chance to warm up. The rain stopped, but the wind inexplicably became stronger again. At the same time, a strange wind blew from all directions and gathered in Qin Guang's direction. Jiang Yage and Xia Lu could see this strange phenomenon because they found that the leaves around them were all floating in the direction of Qin Guang at the same time. These leaves were wrapped in the wind and kept floating toward him. They gathered around him and spiraled up above his head, almost forming a tornado that swept up to the sky. What the hell is this? Jiang Yage was dumbfounded. Shilu's teeth were chattering from the wind. She had already suffered a great shock tonight and she had to endure all the way here. Now she had caught a cold and the ground was covered in blood. Her willpower was still strong and if it was someone else they would have already given up. Jiang Yage reluctantly helped her up and sat on the ground with their backs against the tree. She couldn't care less about the muddy ground under them. Qin Guang also didn't expect that eating some soil would cause such a big commotion. Although it was a shallow meditation, it was only to guard against murderous aura and killing intent. As for the wind and rain, it wasn't within his scope of consideration. He didn't know that because of his crazy absorption of elemental energy, it caused a tornado to form around his body. This went on for more than half an hour before he finally stood up in a refreshed state. His inner force had recovered by more than half, and the Earthburster's ability was a great supplement. It was even more nourishing than when he swallowed Ouyang Tianqing's ability. Anyway, Qin Guang didn't want to leave a mouthful of soup for others to drink. He could absorb the earth elemental ability, and it was rare for him to be able to set up a stance. He might as well absorb it all, until the concentration of the earth elemental energy could no longer support his absorption, and he could barely feel its existence. At this time he still didn't know that he had actually absorbed all the earth elemental energy in the surrounding thousands of miles. Elemental energy was different from air. It could be said to be invisible, but it was also tangible and much lighter than air. The range of the elemental energy that Qin Guang absorbed was huge. The earth elemental energy came from all directions at an extremely fast speed, many times faster than the speed of sound. However, the wind it brought was not that fierce, and it was a bit like electrolytic ions flowing through a solution. He stretched lazily and shouted, "Awesome!" Then he began to look around for Jiang Yage and Shi Lu, shouting, "We can't wait for them. Let's go back." 3 minutes later. F***CK. Curry. He ran under a big tree and dug away the thick layer of leaves that had almost piled up into a grave. He looked at the two girls hiding behind the tree with blue lips, hugging each other for warmth, but failed miserably and fainted from the cold. Qin Guang's heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. What suffering! Chapter 989. After a while he transferred qi to the two of them, used his inner force to help them get rid of the frostbite in their bodies, and hurriedly used his earth ability to build a cave around the three of them to block the wind. Then Qin Guang used the all-encompassing inner force of the true martial divine skill that could change attributes at will to form a flaming saber. He weakened the power and slashed at the extremely sturdy cave wall. "Eat the first form of my flaming saber. Eat the 77th form of my flaming saber." In short, the cave warmed up just like that. After about 10 minutes, Jiang Yage was the first to wake up. She opened her eyes in a daze. "Is this hell?" Nodding his head, Qin Guang responded, "That's right. This is the meat toilet hell. I'll have to trouble benefactor to raise your butt." "You're winning." "It's not convenient for me right now." Jiang Yage calmed down the moment she heard Qin Guang's voice. She shook her head and woke up. Then she gave Master Guang a rude awakening. Qin Guang didn't want to speak anymore. "It's not convenient for you, and you're telling me you want to train. Are you going to perform a red fountain for me?" Jiang Yage was bashful. "I just came a day early. It was frozen out." As she spoke, she touched Shi Lu's forehead. "Oh my God. So hot. It's at least 50 to 60 degrees. She's burning up so badly." "Shut up. If it's 50 to 60 degrees, it's almost done. Don't be so surprised. I just used the weakened version of the flaming saber to add some heat to the two of you. The heat hasn't dissipated yet." Jiang Yage nodded. "Okay, but aren't you afraid of being sued for copyright infringement? Isn't this Jiumoji's Kung Fu? Can you think of a more reliable name? Why do you even read the demigods and semi-demons? Why do you see through my nonsense every time? What's the name of the flaming saber?" Jiang Yage blinked. She realized that she was extremely curious about everything about Qin Guang. Even if it was just some random nonsense, it was still very attractive to her. He was like a black hole sucking in all of her rationality. Too perfect, too handsome. How could there be such an impeccable man in this world? I'm so lucky to be born in this era and to be able to meet him at the best age. He just did not know, if a martial arts master like him farted, would it smell good because the conception and governing vessels had been opened and there were no impurities in his body? Blarg. Qin Guang recalled the awkwardness of learning this martial art in the realm of true martial. He shook his head and said, Well, don't ask these useless questions." Say it. Jiang Yage began to act coquettishly. The more he didn't want to talk about it, the more she wanted to know. Qin Guang blushed. "Don't laugh at me." "Okay, I swear I won't laugh." Qin Guang took a deep breath and said, "This move is called the Super Force Crimson Flame Floating Saber that can't lose to the Flaming Saber." Damn, the martial emperor who developed this martial art in the realm of true martial must be a retard. Puff. "I won't laugh, I really won't laugh." Jiang Yage was stunned for a few seconds and began to beat her chest and stamped her feet. She really did it. She really endured it, but her chest was almost hammered flat. Qin Guang sighed. In fact, the retarded martial art he learned in the realm of true martial was far more than this. He also had 10 unique skills. Just by saying the names he could make 1 Buddha born and 2 Buddhas go to heaven, okay? Forget it, it's not important. Well, if there's nothing else, let's go. I'll carry Shi Lu. Although she should be fine, it's better to go to the hospital. Just as he was about to leave, there was a loud noise outside. Qin Guang pricked up his ears and listened. He stopped Jiang Yage again and signaled for her not to act rashly. Indeed, people came, but it was not the armed police or the armed police. A faint human voice drifted in from outside. It was the voice of Fortunemonger. Like father like son, Bao Ensong had become a malignant tumor and his father, Fortune Monger, was to blame. This time, Bao Ensong even kidnapped Jiang Yage. But Fortune Monger still braced himself and brought people to deal with the aftermath. However, he was only here to collect his son's corpse. Boss, what situation is this? Why are there so many wolf corpses? Ma Song, why are you asking me? How would I know? My God, what the hell is going on? Why is there such a huge wolf pack? There are at least hundreds of corpses here, right? Boss, there are no bullet holes on these wolves' bodies and there are no knife marks either. It's a bit like what? It's like they were torn apart by a terrifying force or crushed to death. The ones here are even worse. They've all been smashed into pieces as if they were thrown into a meat grinder. That's not the most important thing. Faster, thief. These wolves are really big. Silver wolves. My God. Basong. Why are there silver wolves here? And they've even been torn into two. This silver wolf is almost the size of a horse. As the local tyrant of Whitewater River, Fortune Sack had heard many stories about wolves from the older generation. Silver wolves were a mutated breed that only appeared once in 100 years. Once they matured, they would be extremely ferocious and powerful. Furthermore, they had astonishing intelligence and were extremely cunning. But what he saw now was the corpse of the Silver Wolf King who had died a terrible death. Ma Song also leaned over and sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortune Monger stomped his feet anxiously. Quickly search the vicinity. There might have been a very terrifying battle between beasts here. I don't know what happened to Bao and Song. Boss, there's a very strange mound over there. Why do you care about the mound? Find him for me. Gu, didn't you say you're the most familiar with the situation in the mountains? Come tell me what's going on. Fortune Monger pulled a shifty-eyed skinny man in plain clothes in front of him. The one who could make them rush here more than an hour earlier was this veteran hunter surnamed Gu, Huzi's uncle. At this moment, this hunter surnamed Gu was stunned. Boss Monger, I don't know either. If not for the fact that he could not afford to offend this group of people, Gu would have run away long ago. As a hunter, he knew very well how terrifying this scene was. The Silver Wolf King was a terrifying beast that could even contend with tigers, not to mention its huge size. Yet it had died such a terrible death. This could only mean that the monster that slaughtered the wolf pack was 10 times scarier than the wolf pack. This was completely beyond his understanding. He even felt that the monster might have become a spirit, just like what was written in the supernatural novels. Perhaps it had something to do with the smooth mound that should not have appeared in the forest. Gu was definitely a genius. He could even buy a lottery ticket because he had guessed it correctly. Boss. Found it. Over here. At this moment there was a scream from further away. Fortune Monger pulled Gu along and ran towards the source of the scream. A minute later, a heart-wrenching scream resounded through the forest. Son. You died so tragically. My son. This is a gunshot wound. Who is it? Who is it? I want to tear him to pieces. Bastard. Bastard. Fortune Monger roared crazily as he knelt in front of Wang Ensong's corpse, his hands desperately slapping the muddy water in front of him. He did not look like a billionaire boss at all. He had turned into an old man who had lost a loved one. However, he did not deserve any sympathy at all. The cause that he had sown had now borne this fruit. If Wang Ensong had not pushed Shilu into the wolf pack, if he had not fired at Shilu from behind, attempting to use Shilu's flesh and blood as bait, as long as he was willing to kneel down and beg for mercy, and Shilu had not suffered any physical harm, Qin Guang might not have taken his life. Perhaps he would have become a eunuch and suffer for the rest of his life. However, it was his repeated mistakes that pushed him into the abyss, causing Qin Guang to no longer see him as a human being and mercilessly erase his life. However, when a person makes a decision, their personality is the main factor. The nurturing of a person's personality and the environment provided by their parents are the main factors. Wang Ensong could be said to have died in the hands of Qin Guang, but it could also be said that he had died in the hands of Fortune Monger himself. There were many rich second-generation heirs in the world, and there were even people like Lin Jingwei who were second-generation heirs. However, not all of them were so deceitful. Fortune Monger's cries were so loud that even Jiang Yage, who was far away, could hear them clearly. He's going to tear you into pieces. What should we do? He's crying so miserably. Serves him right. I'm not bragging, but I reckon that by the time the people sent by Grandpa find out, this father and son pair will have killed at least 2 digits of people. Do you believe me? Jiang Yage said casually. He was not afraid at all. The hardest part had passed. Jiang Yage really did not think that Fortune Monger and his group could pose any threat to her. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Qin Guang finally moved. He got up and walked forward. I was just thinking about something. What is it? To kill or not to kill? Forget it, I have to remove the roots when cutting weeds. In any case, it's not a good thing. If he really uses a few billion to throw at me, it'll be quite annoying. Jiang Yage knew that Qin Guang was going to start a massacre again. Actually, she felt that this might not be a good idea. Qin Guang's hands were stained with too much blood today. However, she was already sick of the father and son pair of the Bao family. She also knew that if they really wanted to pay with their lives, the father and son pair of the Bao family should have died 10 or even 100 times. She had casually asked old Jiang on the phone before. The history of Fortune Monger's rise was indeed quite bloody. However, there were people who supported him in the past and helped him get away with it. He was also very influential in Baishui County, so it was difficult for the higher-ups to make up their minds to deal with him. Jiang Yage was actually quite annoyed by this. She also could not stand the routine of finding a balance in the political and business circles. Since there were laws they should be abided by. It was only right to pay with one's life. No matter how rich or how powerful the other party was, there should be a price for doing bad things. However, Wuxia was a complicated society. Many people who committed crimes did not receive the punishment they deserved. Jiang Yage could especially understand why Qin Guang lost his job as the director of the Guangding General Administration. With his temper, if he really continued to do this, he would be disgusted to death sooner or later. It was even possible that he had seen too many shady things and was angered. If that happened, his grandfather and the others would really have to stand against him. Suddenly, like a ghost, Qin Guang appeared in front of Fortune Monger without warning with his hands behind his back. Between them was Dan and Song's corpse. I heard that you want to tear my body into pieces? Well, I'm here. Why don't you show me? Qin Guang looked down at Moneybags without any expression on his face. Ma Song, who was standing behind him, froze. He did not understand how this guy had appeared. A moment ago there was no one where he was standing, and the next moment he was talking with his hands behind his back. Although the back of his head was facing him, Ma Song felt that he was being stared at by the back of his head. If he moved even a little, he would die. Qin Guang, did you do it? Hatred and grief made Fortune Monger forget his fear of martial artists for a moment. He raised his head and stared angrily at Qin Guang, roaring. Qin Guang nodded. That's right, I did it. I also killed these wolves. And then, as he spoke, he paused and said helplessly, actually, I'm a very reasonable person most of the time. However, it seems that I can't reason with you this time. So, I hope that you will remember today's lesson when you cross the bridge of helplessness. If you have a next life, remember to be a good person in your next life and teach your son well. Qin Guang suddenly laughed. He rarely laughed like this. This was because he wanted to hide his inner thoughts. If he had a choice, he would not want to kill. However, there were always people who had to die in this world.